365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Empty backfield, trips right for Bo with a snap and throw. Steps, no throw there, going to run to the right. Now we'll throw wide open end zone. Touchdown, Oregon. Touchdown, Ducks, Tez Johnson.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Penix wants to throw, looking downfield, looking, takes a shot, Rome Odunze! Did he hold on? Yes, sir! Touchdown, Washington! Rome Odunze! Playing a Bolitnikoff kind of game. Another explosive, this time for 33, and the Huskies take the lead.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Here's Benson on the delay. Good call, well executed. Benson heading toward the end zone. 38-yard touchdown, Florida State.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Florida drops into a zone. Daniels trying to run it. Gets some space. What a move! Jaden Daniels again! Jaden Daniels, touchdown LSU! 51 yards!
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Loftus with 3 touchdown passes tonight in his second career start, trying to tie the game. Throws, end zone, no, and that's it. Carolina keeps the victory bell in double overtime.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Thursday afternoon. It is hoodie day for 2 of us. Paul did not get the
I didn't get the memo.
Did not get the memo. It's hoodie day. This, by the way, is one Joe Frazier, my favorite all-time athlete in the history of ever. Paul gave this to me for my birthday. On the back, it's got March 8, 1971, and all that with the great fight that they had, the first of 3, the trio of Ali and Frazier at Madison Square Garden in New York. Craig Smoak is here. He's got his blue Rangers hoodie on. Paul was here with his nice golf shirt. And this is 365 Sports. 2 or 3 stories that have kind of popped in the last half an hour. Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie here helping run the mothership. The Jim Harbaugh.
I'm sorry, I have to cut you off, but this is not a Rangers hoodie. It's a World Series champion Rangers
there
hoodie.
You go.
I just want
World
to,
Series champion Rangers hoodie.
Make sure you get that right.
I saw a car this morning driving around. I guess it was on Lakeshore with all the what do you call it, the shoe polish all over the windows like it was a Little League team, but with the Rangers and World Series champion. Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. We're going to get to a nice note for KU and much more. But this, Paul, you go ahead and do it. You're the one that saw this as I was driving into the studio.
All right, in my brain, this is how this sounds. This morning, the university, Coach Harbaugh, and the Big Ten resolved their pending litigation, which means they're not going to court tomorrow. The conference agreed to close its investigation. The university and Coach Harbaugh agreed to accept the 3-game suspension. Coach Harbaugh, with the university's support, decided to accept this sanction to return the focus to our student-athletes and their performance on the field.
So, 3-game suspension. We know they suspended for Penn State. There's 2 games left in the regular season. If, in fact, Michigan plays for the Big Ten championship, which means they also beat Ohio State, will he coach in the Big Ten championship game?
He's already served 1 game of the 3-game suspension, so he will serve this week and next week, and then it'll be over. This is probably a win for all sides because Michigan was really going to muddy the water here when it came to this. Like, every accusation that the Big Ten, however valid, was going to make, Michigan was going to counter with, well, this team did this, and this team did this, and this Ohio State, Purdue, Rutgers triumvirate did a thing, and then the Big Ten didn't need that coming out, and Michigan didn't need anything the Big Ten has found out coming out, muddying the water, and agreeing to let the NCAA do this is the easiest path for both of them because the NCAA can now put this to wherever back burner they're going to put it on or front burner and deal with it, and then everybody kind of wins here, except maybe the fans of college football.
Yeah, Greg, I'm glad it's over.
It's it's not totally over. Just the Big Ten investigation's over.
Well, that's
the
true.
NCAA investigation continues on. Like, that's the thing that maybe a few people are tripping up on as this breaks here. But, the Big Ten is saying, all right, we're done here. As Paul mentioned, probably just to avoid the opening up the can of worms that would include all the other teams now that have already been mentioned in the last couple of weeks as having, potentially or having done something similar. So probably best for business for the Big Ten to just not open up that can of worms and make this an even bigger situation than it already is. And so I can see that from their standpoint, especially when you've got two teams that are in the thick of the hunt. They're going to play in a couple of weeks, and you probably want the focus to be on that, right? More so than one of those teams and your investigation of them. So, I think this is mutually beneficial, and the Big Ten can now go about its business and not be so worried about what all they might be uncovering here. But, the NCAA investigation continues on. I mean, that's not what was a part of this statement. So, as far as how long that takes and the back burner and those types of things, I mean, who the heck knows? It's the NCAA, so anybody's guess is as good a guess as any. I think that they realize that just the fight isn't worth it in most cases with this, and I know a lot of Michigan fans I've already seen are very disappointed because they feel like this is almost an admission of, not wanting to fight and defend and say that you didn't do anything wrong. So in a way, are you kind of admitting to that by just accepting that you'll both go your separate ways? I don't know. I guess it depends on the eye of the beholder here, but I'd be relieved that part of it's just done and out of the way. Even if you weren't all that concerned about it, I'd still be a little bit just, I don't know about worried, but confused, concerned about what else might be there with the NCAA part of it. But again, like, who the heck knows how long that might take? So, they move. They go about their business. One less thing to worry about. Plenty of other things still to be concerned with, I guess. But on the front is the football side of things. So that's where their focus can go, and Harbaugh can serve a suspension and get back to work.
Yeah, and he could be a part of the Big Ten championship game if Michigan continues to take care of their business. Now, this was a note. Craig walked in the door. Jalen Daniels. There it is. Craig, he's been out most of this year. There was questions about what he would do. Don't need to read the entire statement, but this is great news for KU football as a dynamic quarterback who has been, just not able to play. Is now going to come back for another year for Lance Leipold and the Jayhawks.
Well, what I hope this means is that he can get healthy for next year. I don't want him to have to go through, or the fans of Kansas, to be quite honest with you, the fans of the Big 12, to have to, kind of go through that roller coaster, but particularly him for his health. I just hope that he can spend the offseason fixing whatever problem he's got with his back and
treatment,
and getting it
therapy,
better.
all of that.
Yeah, it's huge news for KU and Lance Leipold, and the next thing will be to finish out this season as strong as they can. That was a disappointing loss last week, but you got Jason Bean knocked out of the game early on, and I don't think it was a surprise. You couldn't really score a lot of points with the young guy there in Cole Ballard, but you made it a game. You tied it up late. You just gave up, though, like one of the prettiest drives from a Texas Tech standpoint, one of the most awful drives from a Kansas standpoint. What was that, less than 30 seconds that they marched down the field and lined up to kick the game-winning field goal after you had just tied it. So that was brutal to fight back and then just get it ripped right away from you again. But that changed some things as far as their possibilities this year, but they've still got a really good thing going, and the fact that they are in that position this late in the year and they've had to manage this quarterback situation and not having who they expected to have along the way, I think speaks really well to the health of that program. And now you've also got to ward off the Lance Leipold rumors and about any of these open jobs, right? Because his name is getting mentioned, and you just don't know how serious that may get. But if all stays as is, and this is a good sign that it most likely will, and you've got your star quarterback coming back and actually able to play, hopefully, for a full season, because this year was very forgettable. I mean, he played 3 games, and then we haven't seen him since the end of September. And they were 3-0, and he was playing okay to good, but got hurt, and we've seen nothing since. So it's been a week-to-week thing of will he, won't he? And he mostly hasn't. And then now Jason Bean's health. At least you have a really solid backup like Bean. But this is awesome news for KU and really starts to build the fire for next year and what they can turn this thing into and keep moving forward with building the program under Leipold. So, this is great. I don't know what his NFL prospects were. Like, I never even dug that far into it. I don't think they were obviously ever all that serious to cause him to, have to waffle too much on this. But, there's always a chance he could certainly leave. And so this is great news for that fan base.
All right, before we get to the WWE and the Big 12, there's a note from Steve Sarkisian, Iowa State hosting Texas Saturday night. Sarkisian calling Ames, Iowa, the scene of the crime for the origination of the culture installation at Texas earlier on in his tenure. We know that Texas has struggled there. A lot of people have at times struggled in Ames, Iowa. Some have more success there than others. But going back to where Sarkisian actually, that's when we got bloodied a little bit. This is when we decided, okay, we've got some issues that we need to work on that maybe we did know, but maybe weren't working on them correctly.
Was that the defensive line coach on the bus saying that portal's open? Was that after that game?
It could be. Yeah, it could be. Yeah,
that because that was 2 years ago when that happened, and I don't know if anybody that moment, and I mean because it never came out about the other coaches, but I don't know if that moment ever happened with Charlie Strong or Tom Herman, where they just said hey, you guys are basically the gist of it was you guys are acting like you're these University of Texas superstars, and you're so far away from those guys that you don't even know. So you either want to put in the work to get there, like those teams did, or that portal is open. Jump right in it.
Yeah, if you want to go. We can find somebody else.
Yeah, they got beat 30-7, and then there was the whole bus,
incident,
speech, tirade, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's not something I've thought about in quite a while, but obviously that's stuck with him and a good learning tool, and they are still very, confident in their abilities. I think that Texas still has the swagger they've always had, whether they're good or not, but they're actually good, so it makes it, something of substance as opposed to just the air of arrogance and entitlement that I think that Iowa State player was speaking to. I think this year you actually do have something backing that, right? It's not just we're Texas. It's no, we're pretty good.
They've won
we're
2
good.
or 3 games that
right.
they could have lost at least a couple of
them.
them.
A long way from that bus trip because that was empty. Expectations in a lot of ways or confidence, and this is a whole different thing now that he's been able to build since that bus incident. And so, that's a good way of looking at it. And, I think that what could have been a little bit of a sleepwalk potentially, maybe not. Maybe they're going to be locked in knowing there's only a couple weeks to go and they can go clinch a spot in the Big 12 title game. I mean, that's enough motivation and also being on the potential right side of the playoff, depending on how things work out these last couple of 3 weeks. You're feeling good about things, but then you have the Iowa State player popping off, and I feel like any chance of a lack of focus this weekend was immediately negated by that because now guys who are maybe just la-di-da, now they're like, that dude said what?
Yeah.
And so they're going to be fired up. You add that into it as well, and I think they're going to be ready to go in Ames. And I think the Cyclones will be ready to go as well because this is a huge game for them. But, we're a long way away from the yelling on the bus and the entitlement speech.
You want to hear something funny, though, the way fans are? So I had a Texas fan. I think he actually went to TCU, but if Texas is playing well, he's a Texas fan. And if TCU's playing well, he's a Frogs fan. He actually came up to me and said, hey, I'm telling you right now, I don't care what anyone says. Texas is going to whip Iowa State this weekend. I go, well, they're favored. They're the bigger, better, faster, stronger, and he goes, yeah, but I'm telling you right now, a lot of people don't think they're going to win in Ames. I said, and so I thought he was going to eventually bring up the offensive lineman. He goes, I'm hearing all this on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And I said, end of conversation, man. You cannot, my God. You're the Facebook, I just laughed, and I wasn't disrespectful. I said, stop. You cannot get the week's pulse based on Facebook. You can't get anything based in my opinion, on Facebook, but can you? He went there.
I get all of my college football news from TikTok and Snapchat. Reputable news sources.
I used to have Instagram for that, but never was able to open it up. Craig, Facebook, but I think this is fun. This is an opportunity. Iowa State's more ahead. They're way ahead of the curve of what everyone thought this year. And now here they are with a game that could put them right back in the chase to possibly play in Arlington in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're motivated. If they weren't, they have more reason to be motivated now because of the bus incident, and not the one we're talking about that featured, or not because of the bus incident, but because of the media quotes that came out there. So yeah, I mean the Facebook. I mean I deleted that over 10 years ago.
I know you
did. I haven't had anything to do with that in forever. But yeah, that's not the place that I would necessarily go for opinions of any kind. All due respect to those who still use it, but yeah, that's not been in my repertoire for well over a decade at this point. And so yeah, that's I can see where that would, I guess, fire up some people though. But I think there's enough without any outside noise just on the field. Like you can clinch a spot in the Big 12 title game. You're in the playoff race, so get your motivation wherever you need it. But I think Sark's got the right approach here.
So the Big 12 consulted with Craig Smoak. The WWE, they're going to have a 2023 Big 12 championship. Introducing a custom-made title belt for this year's most outstanding player, co-branded logo in venue and on the field, and other championship integrations featuring WWE superstars. Craig, I'll let you just go with what you want.
Well, y'all know the tie-in here, right?
Yeah. Endeavor.
Yeah. Big 12's Endeavor property, or not, they have a partnership with Endeavor, and WWE's owned by Endeavor now under TKO Holdings, which is something that happened earlier this year. So yeah, Endeavor and the WWE now in business together. Endeavor owns the WWE, and they're partnered with the UFC under the TKO Holdings umbrella under Endeavor. So there's the tie-in there. But I mean, for the longest time now, I mean, years and years and years, I'm sure you've been watching, you know, whether it's a random clip from a championship in any professional league or a parade or whatever, and you see that WWE title belt, right? Like, it's kind of become commonplace in championship celebrations to the point of now, like, they're custom ones that they send, and they've been doing that for a long time, of sending, like, every U.S. Pro Sports League champion, they send them a customized title belt with their logo on it and everything. And now they actually sell them. You might see an NFL commercial where they sell, like, WWE Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys themed title belt and so on and so forth. So they've been trying to have like that cross promotion with the pro sports for a long time now. They've been very intentional about it. I think with Endeavor, even more so ramping that up. They've got an NIL program. The Cavender twins were a part of, are a part of that, I guess, still technically. And so, WWE's been very much ramping up over the last few years their pro sports, relationships. And so, this with the college sports is interesting, but like I said, they already have the NIL thing going on, so this just makes sense to delve a little further into it. You have the Endeavor backdrop to this, and so that's all, you know, in-house, so to speak. And so, yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's a way to, you know, equally promote each other. It's good for the WWE to get, you know, whatever kind of exposure from sports fans that could potentially cross over. And then for the Big 12, yeah, why not have a big brand like WWE, who's Endeavor-owned, and have them put some cool things together like a title belt and most outstanding player belt or whatever. I think, yeah, that's
get
very
some new
cool.
Eyeballs
yeah,
too.
that's new.
Here's what I would do. If I won it, like the thing I would say when I picked it up, because I would want to have fun with it, be like, all right, after this, I want Kurt Angle, Atlantic City, Rage in the Cage.
Yeah, I have a question.
And don't pick a current wrestler, pick an old one. Like the Ultimate Warrior
I think
next.
Wahoo McDaniel just passed away.
Scrounge up some dollars. Ric Flair
Killer
will crawl his way to the
Kowalski or
ring.
something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have $100 and a plane ticket,
Yeah,
you'll be
exactly.
Let's say Texas moves on and goes to the game and wins the game, and Tavondre Sweat dominates the game. How big is this damn belt?
Well, better make it pretty big.
360 pounds.
It's pro wrestling. He's not anything unique. I mean,
yeah.
he'd be a big guy in the ring, but they've got plenty of other guys that are equally as big, if not larger. So I think the title belt will fit just fine. But I do think that's a cool promotional thing that, you know, maybe previous regimes wouldn't have thought of, and others might not be all that interested in. But as a guy who's grown up watching wrestling my whole life, it's cool to, and then obviously covers the Big 12 on a daily basis, college football. I think it's cool to see that. Nick Khan, who obviously has a lot of dealings in the sports world over his career, I think, again, it's just relationship with Brett Yormark and all that just moving forward. So it makes sense for all parties involved, and I think it's a cool little unique touch. And they're making a big deal out of the championship game, as big as they possibly can with stuff like this, with the Nelly performance. And, now we just need to figure out who's going to be playing in that thing. And we can get at least one side of it this weekend, talking about the team we were just talking about in the Texas Longhorns.
Well, I know one thing. It also, I'm sure it's not like they don't get any money out of this, because you know that they will. Now, we mentioned the story over the weekend with the University of Houston with 3 former players and the tragedy of them all being killed in a car wreck. This is the helmet, at the back of their helmet. This came from University of Houston football. They're going to memorialize DJ Hayden, Zachary McMillan, Ralph Aragwu. with a commemorative decal on the back of Houston's helmet for their game coming up this weekend. Now, another story. Oregon State, Washington State. Remember a couple of days ago they were told that they were the only two, even though the other one still had kind of at least a part of the business, but they were the ones with the votes. This is now the most recent. Before we get to the most recent decision on who has votes or not, here we go. Nicole Harbaugh, Washington Supreme Court entered a temporary stay in the preliminary injunction until the motion for an emergency stay can be ruled upon. During the temporary stay, the TRO, what's that stand for?
Temporary
restraining order granted on behalf of Washington and Oregon State remains in effect. So legally, without getting complicated, what does this mean?
It just means that the remaining 10 Pac-12 teams that asked for a stay of the decision so that Washington State and Oregon State cannot make any decisions until their appeal is heard. So they've appealed to the Supreme Court. The court that made the ruling granted a stay until the Supreme Court can hear the appeal, and then ultimately Washington State and Oregon State will get to do what they want if the Supreme Court upholds that decision.
It didn't take long to have the ruling come up on Tuesday. It didn't take long for the injuncction, Craig.
Yeah, and I don't think the next part will take long either. I think that's right around like in the next few days too, right? So this is like going to be just kind of moving along here. All this was expected, I think, by the people who know protocol. The legal side of things. Like the fact that Oregon State, Washington State won the other day, which they did, but it wasn't like what you thought. Like they didn't immediately get all the money, right? Like because then eventually there was immediately that appeal, and that's where we're at this stage now. And so now there's this stay that's granted, which was expected, and so now the next part. And again, the fastest bet for all parties involved is to come to some agreement and not waste any more money or time on lawyers and court battles. But, I don't know. We're not in that room of where they are and as far as how long or how far down the road they are in terms of coming to an agreement. So with no agreement or, settlement, then they move forward in the courts. And so, this was to be expected as the next part of this. And we'll see what the next step is.
So who are they going to play? Oregon State, Washington State. Ross Dellinger with this one earlier today from Yahoo Sports. They are inching closer to agreeing to a 2-year football scheduling alliance with the Mountain West. And the model will have the Mountain West teams play 7 conference games plus 1 game against Oregon State and Washington State. There are details to iron out about non-conference games, but this is going to be a part of it. Now, I don't know what that means for who wins the Pac-2 championship or the Mountain West championship. I would think they're still going to be separate, but at least Oregon State and Washington State will have more games to play than right now is on their schedule, with 10 of the Pac-12 teams leaving for the Big Ten and or the Big 12. So good for them to get that done.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of a ways to go here. That's not done. That's that's scheduling talk. I mean, that's just what is looking like it's going to happen. That's not done. That's what's most likely at this stage, and that's not something I think that Oregon State or Washington State fans are all that happy to see, guys. That's not what they want. They want a power spot, and anything less, based on what I've read from the various comments to like John Wilner articles and things, is anything short of that is not going to be acceptable. But I don't know if you get a big, huge chunk of cash, which is being decided right now, as we were just talking about that temporary stay. That's part of the process of eventually getting all that cash or whatever they end up getting. That's still working its way through, and this at least, like, the question is okay, if this court case takes forever and ever, is like, what are you going to do as far as next year? Like, you can't just drag this out for months and months and months, and then like, oh yeah, by the way, we are going to be on our own, and now we got to put together a football schedule. So they're doing their due diligence and coming up with their options, and this was always one that was on the table. Some kind of a merger, some kind of a crossover. That's not the ideal scenario, like I said, for the fans that are involved, but it might be the most logical one and the one that fits them best for right now and for the next year or two, and then fast forward to college football and the landscape in a couple years, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know about you guys. I have no idea what 2 years from now will look like in college sports. So, you can revisit it then, or maybe it's just a year. That's the part that needs to be decided fully. But, this is one of, if not the most likely option. And, it's not going to be satisfying for a lot of those folks.
Paul, do the math for me real quick. Are they going to get 7 games out of the Mountain West? Are they
Oh,
play every team, right?
They could get every.
Yeah.
They could get.
And there's some already that have scheduled either one of those schools for non-conference. So then if you are scheduled to play Oregon State, and let's just say you are Boise State, then you'll play Washington State. So they've got all that. When all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, but very close. Ross Dellinger with the story in Yahoo Sports. Let's see here.
Which that still needs to figure out, like, how would that work as far as the playoff goes?
I don't know. I don't know. But remember what Washington State has said. I think it was Washington State or Oregon State. They will work with the College Football Playoff Committee, remember, on the new structure of 6-6 or 5-7, but they're going to want something in return. They're going to want something in return. And whatever that is, right now, they just want to have a season.
I think that's a little bit laughable because I'm not sure what they can offer.
It's got to be unanimous.
Oh,
yeah. But
that's the thing.
It has to be unanimous.
There's a whole conversation of like, okay, you are holding up the playoff, and so what do you get in return? Well, here's a seat in the ACC, or here's a seat in the Big 12. This is the theories that are out there, and so that will be your offer. And so you would take that because that is your safety net that you're wanting, is to be in a Power 5 conference, and you will take whatever agreement you can so that you are still in the playoff mix as a power team, and you've got a home, and all that's good. And so that's the idea here, is that you would do that. At the same time, though, like, if you go out there swinging the big stick, like, you got to listen to us because we've got this leverage. Like, everybody else is going to be like, we're going to get you back. It's just a matter of when, not if. And so I don't think that, like, I think there's a lot of Oregon State, Washington State fans that feel like they have nothing to lose, and they're right in some ways, but that because there's that potential holdup that, like, they have all the leverage, and it's like, no, like, everybody could get together and jettison you from this whole thing at the earliest opportunity if you want to play this game. So it's the little chess match that's going on there is interesting.
I know, but if they agree to 5-7 or 6-6, and Oregon State, Washington State have a vote in it, they have to be unanimous. They're not going to do it just for 1 year. Yeah, they're not going to agree to something just for 1 year, knowing that they can then get like a big knife in the back. So they're not going to get everything, but they got to get something out of this.
Only a 2-year contract on this, so they have to really thread the needle. And if your theory is that they're going to hold it up to make a conference take them, obviously it's a lot more complicated than that, because you're telling a TV network that they're going to have to pay money. You're going to have to tell them, like, there's a lot that you have to do there. So you're the NCAA would, or the College Football Playoff, if Oregon State wanted that, it's going to have to rely on telling private entities what they're going to do, which clearly they can't. So Oregon State and Washington State can muddy the water for a little while, or gum up the works. But eventually, if you overplay your hand,
you just get overwhelmed.
That's the thing.
They will put you in the shredder.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not just a short term, like, we're going to screw you guys and there's nothing you can do about it. It's like, no, there will be repercussions one way or the other. And they do have leverage. Don't get me wrong. They do have some, but it's not like the total, like, everybody's playing by their rules all of a sudden.
No, they don't get to, like, tell everybody.
But there is like, if they didn't have that, though, like, they would be totally screwed. I mean, there would be like no options on the table. They'd have nothing. So there is that, and the timing is just very fortunate that Kirk Schultz happened to be a part of that. Like, of all the things that have gone wrong, like, the one thing that just kind of ended up fortunate was that you do have that potential holdup. But yeah, like, they still don't know about the money piece now. Like, that's still, like we discussed earlier, part of the deal. So the Mountain West thing, again, always was a potential option. Not official by any means. Looks like it's the kind of leading candidate maybe at this point, just based on the reporting, but still need to see how this goes.
Lawrence Gragston just asked about, hey, is it true about the injunction? Yes, we just mentioned it. Sorry you missed that conversation. We have a reporter who covers Oregon State at 4:30 Central. Softy, he'll join us on Washington and Oregon State. He'll join us here in about 15 minutes.
No one should freak out about the injunction.
No.
It doesn't really change
in the
much.
end, it's all going to end up probably what it was going to end up in the first place, except lawyers get a lot of money.
You just don't get all that money and get to start spending it right away and spending it as though it's yours.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing, is just everything just kind of remains as is. You're still in control of it, but you can't start ripping it away and throwing it everywhere that you want to.
Here are the scenarios in the Pac-12 for this weekend. Washington can clinch a spot with a win at Oregon State, which would be a huge win anyway, or Utah beats Arizona. Oregon can clinch a spot with a win over Arizona State, and Washington beats Oregon State, and Utah beats Arizona. Oregon State stays in contention with a win over Washington or wins by both Utah over Arizona and Arizona State over Oregon. Arizona must beat Utah to stay in contention. Utah must beat Arizona and have both Washington beat Oregon State and Arizona State beat Oregon to stay in contention. Unless they decide to change the rules and they talk to the Big 12 about how in the world can we make this happen.
So here's what the Pac-12 probably really needs to have happen. None of that stuff below Washington and Oregon, because otherwise they're not in the college football playoff. Like, basically, if any of that stuff happens, they're going to find themselves, sadly, even though they're the best league this year, on the outside looking in.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you obviously are hoping playoff-wise for a Washington-Oregon championship game. I think as football fans, we'd all like that as well, although you could convince me that Oregon State, Oregon, or, some other combination. I don't even know what all combinations would still be. I guess there's a lot of it sorted out there. But, I mean, Washington-Oregon is the big marquee matchup based on where those two teams are right now. But, yeah, Oregon State can still very much play spoiler. I mean, they've got both those teams coming up to close out the season. So they've got a chance to really be the chaos makers here. And so, that's going to be a really fun game coming up this weekend with Oregon State and Washington State, because that could be a big wrench thrown into this little graphic here. But Oregon and Washington should be the favorites to probably end up in the long run. But, again, that could be interrupted. I'm just amazed to see Arizona in contention. They're in the top 25. Now, the only bad part is now you hear Jed Fish being brought up as like, well, what about him at such and such school, which is understandable because of the job he's done so far. But, with them coming to the Big 12, that's good to see because they were not a factor, I think, in anybody's thinking as far as like what they'd bring football-wise. That was a basketball conversation most of the time. And then Utah, I mean, just given the ups and downs they've been dealing with injury-wise and the no Cam Rising and Brent Keithy all year long, the fact that they're still hanging around and have a chance here with a couple weeks to go is pretty amazing. I mean, even if it is a small chance, it's still just a testament to the strength of that program. So, those are going to be a couple of schools like right now that have a great trajectory heading into the Big 12, and then a lot of chaos potentially at the top. But Oregon State's going to be the team to watch here over these next couple weeks because they play both Washington and Oregon. So.
Well, we'll discuss a lot of that with Softy from KJR in Seattle, so get your earmuffs on or get ready. If you have hearing aids on, turn them down because he's going to bring it full steam. This is the last part. When we come back, I guess we could go to Softy next. We're kind of running behind on the break, but we're going to go. There's news. I got to do this. Ray Anderson, he was just fired as the AD of Arizona State, and everybody said hallelujah, right? There's a report from the State Press Sports that covers ASU and also in the Arizona Tempe area, Phoenix area. Ray Anderson remains under the same pay as a professor at ASU. Following his resignation, he will receive the same salary as a professor at ASU as he was as the director of athletics, which is somewhere around $900,000, and would, I think, then become the highest paid professor on the ASU campus in Tempe. Yeah,
we hear a lot of interesting thoughts on sports contracts and buyouts. There's nothing worse than academia contracts, in my opinion. Like, what do? You have to burn down a children's hospital to actually not get your money in academia. It feels like it's amazing how many people end up on the winning side of things because of how that stuff is put together. So, he wins in the long run. I mean, he'll have the I guess, blemish of the end of the Arizona State tenure, but do you think he's sweating it all that much? I mean, maybe his ego hurts a little bit that, he's going to be looked at a certain type of a way, but what a nice parachute, I mean, to just fall back on. One day is not looking that good, and wait for the details, and you figure out that, hey, it's actually not that bad for Mr. Ray Anderson, at least monetarily. So good for him, I guess, but even though he still gets a little bit of a last laugh there, I suppose, I think everybody's still relieved that regardless of what he ended up with, that he's not going to be a part of the mix moving forward.
All right, we'll get to the Outlet and Horning Awards finalists, semifinals later in the show. We have a lot of guests to get to. Softy on the University of Washington, Oregon State, Pac-12, etc. And then at the top of the hour, Max Olson, theathletic.com. He will join us later on. If you like the NFL, Cowboys beat, I guess we could say columnist Mickey Spagnola, 525. Craig off the radar, 445. Taylor McCarg normally joins us Thursdays. He's tomorrow. Paul's top five to end the show will come up at around 5:45. David Smoak, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Jack McKenzie, Garrett Ross, Emery Winter, and Levi Caraway. We are 365 Sports. Earlier today, got a text from Stonewood Dental next week. I believe it's the 21st is a Tuesday, whenever that day is. But next week, I got a reminder that, hey, you have an appointment at 10:15 with Dr. Steve Childress and Stonewood Dental. This is not for a possible root canal. This is not to fill a cavity. This is not for pulling a tooth. This is progress, because my back top left molar, I have a temporary, and I'm going to get the full crown in, the real crown. It's going to be put in. Dr. Childress did a root canal, fixed up the problems. It'd been bothering me for a long, long time, and I'm going to get that finalized with a new crown put in on the 21st. Got the text. I can't wait. Normally I'd go, oh my God, what do I have to do? But I've been doing slowly and methodically what's best, because I have to play catch up for not doing enough other than brushing your teeth and maybe this or that. It's more than that. If you have a problem, if you have a tooth that is sore, you might just say, okay, I got something in my gum. Go get it checked out, because it could become a root canal, could become a pulled tooth, could become an implant. So take care of it. And if you need a dentist, you want a dentist, the one that I trusted has done a great job with me, Dr. Steve Childress, Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Don't miss out on the biggest deals of the year during the Black Friday sales event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Experience the adventure, style, and comfort of the new 2023 Jeep lineup. Shop our great selections in-store or online today and start your Jeep adventure.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient, with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6, and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Washington, Oregon State is one of the bangers this weekend in the top 25. It's a banger. Oregon State has been really good. Washington, of course, unbeaten. Michael Penix, a part of the Heisman talk. And this one, of course, also has ramifications when it comes to the Pac-12 and who plays for the conference championship. We'll have Dave Softy Mahler here in just one moment. Let's go ahead and put those awards up if you have time, Garrett. Let's start with the Outland Trophy. No, that's okay, the Horning Trophy. This is for the best kind of the multi-dimensional player that does a little bit of everything. And if you see the graphics, one of them is Travis Hunter. He's played pretty much every position for Colorado, cornerback, slot, and wide receiver. Craig, you're going to have to help me with the name because I know he was pretty good. Cameron Skidabo from Arizona State. He is a running back, Wildcat quarterback, and also the punter for the Sun Devils. And then one other name that is on this list, I just saw the name. I had the entire press release. Hold on, you're getting frustrated with me. That's fine. Sione Vaki of Utah. We know what he's done. We talked, in fact, about what Utah's done with him in the running game, also a defensive player. Those are the three finalists for the Horny Award. Craig, if you had a vote, who would you vote for?
Man, I think I'd go and lean Vaki here, just based on what we've seen. He's been tremendous as a dual threat. And so, yeah, I mean, Travis Hunter earlier in the year would have been the trendy pick to make. I don't know. I think just with the way they've kind of fallen off, and he was hurt and all of that. But Vaki's the one that jumps out to me. Skidabo as well is a good one too. But Vaki's the one that I've been really impressed by. So
I'm going to go Sione Vaki.
Dave, Softy, if you had to pick the Horning Award finalist, you have Skidabo, Vaki, and also Travis Hunter. You've seen some of them. Who would you take?
Oh, God. Well, Vaki didn't do anything against us. Scatabo was a problem against Washington. He is really hard to bring down, man. I mean, Travis Hunter, yeah, he goes both ways, but is he a superstar on the defensive side of the ball? Is he a superstar on the offensive side of the ball? I mean, okay, so a guy's going both ways, but is he really making a gigantic impact on one side of the ball or the other? I would say he makes much more of an impact on offense than he does on defense, at least from what I've seen, because the Buffalo defense is freaking awful. So the fact that he goes both ways doesn't do a lot for me. I mean, as far as guys that played UW, Scatabo definitely was the hardest one to bring down for sure. Absolutely.
All right, so the Huskies remain, UW remains unbeaten. Penix right there in that top of the conversation for the Heisman Trophy. Oregon State is favored in this game. This is a handful for both teams. Your thoughts about this one?
Well, there's no doubt it's going to be a handful, and I love the fact that Oregon State is the favorite in this game, and the Huskies love that too. It's the first time all year long they've been an underdog, and Jamarcus Shepard, the wide receivers coach who came to Washington from Purdue, he loves it. He's been barking all week long about how great it is that UW is the underdog, and everyone thinks we suck, and our receivers are terrible, and blah, blah, blah. He wants his players to think that. He's getting sick and tired of all the accolades and all the nice things and praise that people are saying about the Husky football team. So he's been barking about that being a great thing all week long. He went on the air the other day and said that when they get to Reser Stadium in Corvallis, he wants the fans to start telling the players how fat their girlfriends are and how stupid their parents are. He wants them to fire them all up for the game on Saturday. So I think from an underdog perspective, that's definitely something that UW can play up for the first time all year.
Softy, I know that Kalen DeBoer did not answer the question as emphatically as Dan Lanning did when everybody brings up Texas A&M. Was part of that just politicking on his part so that the NIL gets the boost that he wants it to get and all those other things that he's been trying to get UW to do?
You're talking about the A&M job, is that right?
Yes.
Or any job?
A&M in particular, because that's the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah. I just don't think that DeBoer is A&M. Well, first of all, he's obviously a phenomenal coach. I was going to say he's not A&M material, but that's not what I'm trying to say. He's not he's not the fit for College Station, guys. He's just not. I mean, if you were hanging around Kalen DeBoer, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. He's kind of an introvert in some ways, if you can believe that or not. He's a phenomenal guy. I mean, dude, the guy has been awesome to work with. I can tell you stories about Kalen DeBoer versus other coaches I've worked with. The lack of an ego compared to Jimmy Lake, for example, is just night and day. I mean, he is like the anti-Jimmy in so many ways, right? He's an offensive guy. Jimmy was a defensive guy, but just from a standpoint of how you treat people and how he treats his assistant coaches and his players and the media, polar opposite of Jimmy Lake. And I just don't see him as the right fit for Texas A&M. If the Michigan job came open, yes, to me, that's a great spot for him. If the Ohio State job, a kind of Midwest gig, if he had any interest in the Michigan State job, something like that. He was at Eastern Michigan, which is like an hour and a half away from Ann Arbor. So if there was ever a job like that came open, I could see him potentially one day leaving and taking off. But as long as UW can get him bumped up to make him one of the top 15, 20 highest paid coaches in the country, I don't see him leaving. And Troy Dannon's the new AD. He's already been on it. Negotiations have already begun. One thing that does kind of concern me a little bit is he's got a new agent, and his name is Jimmy Sexton. You guys know who that is, obviously. He's the Scott Boras of college football. So having that guy represent you is a little bit concerning. But I think as long as the Huskies take care of Kalen DeBoer and as long as they take care of his staff, I don't see him leaving anytime soon unless a job like Michigan ever came open.
Jimmy Sexton is the guy who made that Jimbo deal. So
yeah,
that's right. And guys, how about this? How about if I would have told you 7 years ago that Steve Sarkisian has a job in the state of Texas, but Jimbo Fisher doesn't?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we would.
I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, we would have questioned. We would have questioned you, Softy. Softy Mahler, KJR Radio in Seattle with us, 365 Sports.
So, Softy, what's the balance of emotions like from excitement to anxiety when it comes to the big game coming up this weekend? Oregon State's been slight favorites, odds-wise, all week long. Obviously, they're a crazy good team at home at Reser Stadium. Just what are the thoughts, especially when the Huskies are knocking on the door of the end of the game here?
Yeah. Well, you guys know as well as I, when you're 10-0 and number 5 in the country, you're nervous for every game you play. It doesn't matter who you're playing, for God's sakes, right? They could be playing a high school team, and I'd be nervous for God's sake. So that's number one, because UW has everything to lose. And when you get to this point, man, there's no looking back. It's Final Four bust, right? For Michael Penix, it's Heisman Trophy, at least being in the room, I think, or bust in New York City. I just booked my ticket for New York, by the way, yesterday in case Mike makes the final cut. So I got to get my ass out there if he makes it, man. First time since 91 we've had a guy in the room for the Heisman Trophy if number 9 can get there. But, yeah, I mean, Oregon State's good, right? They lost to Arizona, lost to Washington State. They got the 73rd best passing defense in America, and that gives me a little bit of hope that I think the weakness of the Oregon State defense plays to the strength of the Husky offense, which is their passing game, obviously. And on top of that, guys, UW has something now that they didn't have a month ago, and that's a run game. Dylan Johnson went down to L.A. and put 256 on USC. USC's defense is terrible, but then he backed it up with another 100-yard game against Utah last Saturday, and Utah's defense is stout. So all of a sudden, UW is going to be able to bring a running game along with that passing game down to Corvallis.
Softy, is everything from this point on a must-win for everybody involved to get to the Pac-12 title and be a part of the conversation to play in the college football playoff?
Well, the Pac-12 championship, no. They can lose a game and still make the Pac-12 championship game. Some people think they can lose a game and still make the Final Four. I'm not sure if I'm buying that, guys. I think the lack of respect for Washington by the committee is freaking obvious. I mean, putting them behind Florida State is a joke, absolute joke. UW's got 3 wins over top 25 teams, including one over number 6 Oregon. Florida State has 1 win over 6-3 LSU, and that was in the opener. Their resume doesn't even come close to comparing to Washington. And you know what? As a matter of fact, guys, not only should we be barking about UW and Florida State, we should be bitching about UW and Michigan. Look at Michigan's resume compared to Washington. It's not even comparable what those 2 teams have done. So I'm just going by the committee's rankings. And the committee's rankings say that Washington has a much better resume than Florida State or Michigan. Georgia, no problem. Ohio State, fine, whatever, no problem. But Washington, not only should they be 4, I can make a hell of an argument they should be number 3 for crying out loud. So the fact that they're number 5 makes me think that UW will lose all ties, guys, with the committee. I think the entire country is waiting for Washington to lose a game. Some folks think it'll happen this Saturday. Other folks think it'll happen in 2 weeks in the rematch against Oregon in Las Vegas. But they're like Rodney Dangerfield, man. They're getting no respect at all. None.
Well, the Michigan-Ohio State thing will work itself out for everybody.
Correct. As will UW Oregon. Everything will work itself out, but what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Okay, then why have rankings? I mean, honestly, if this whole thing works itself out, then what are we even doing here? Just wait until the end of the year and then tell me how it all worked out. If we're going to have rankings in the middle of November, why not do them right?
Yeah, but then there would be no show.
Softy's experiencing what we experienced with Baylor at the very beginning of the playoff.
Yeah.
Hey, I get it. I get it, man. Just, complete. And there's a perception about the Pac-12. There really is that I think people have not gotten over that the conference stinks. And they don't stink anymore, but people think they stink, and I think that plays into people's brains.
Dave Softy Mahler with us, KJR Radio in Seattle, Oregon State, Washington this weekend, and a lot to get to. We'll discuss that the next 2 or 3 days.
God, man, I'm sitting here getting ready to go on the air. You guys got me all fired up. Unbelievable, man.
Softy, you're in Pac-12 country, obviously. What is the buzz on Chip Kelly right now? What do you think should happen there?
Well, he's 33-33 in 6 years at UCLA, so you tell me. I mean, and he's making a lot of money, right? I mean, here's the cool thing for Chip Kelly. He's at a basketball school. He's not at a football school. Have you seen some of the crowds at the Rose Bowl for some of UCLA's games? I think there's more people in your studio than there are at UCLA home games. It's insane how few people give a damn about UCLA football. So, look, I think in the end he's likely going to get let go. I know John Wilner thought the report was a bit premature, and maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But you didn't hire Chip Kelly 6 years ago to go 33-33 over 66 games. I think he's won one bowl game since he's been there at UCLA. And the offense, whatever he was running at Oregon, whatever he was running with the Eagles and the 49ers, has kind of been figured out. And you would think that Chip Kelly would have a blue chip 5-star quarterback on his roster. They got 3 guys and don't even know which one's the best one. They got a transfer from UW and Ethan Garbers that couldn't even play here, and now he can't even play at UCLA. Dante Moore, the hotshot young guy, isn't turning into what people thought he was going to turn into. So I think in the end, it's only a matter of time before Chip's out the door and they hire somebody else.
Softy, what's the conversation like surrounding the legal battle going on right now with Oregon State, Washington State? Obviously, there was another the stay today, so that just keeps kind of taking this thing down the tracks, and Oregon State, Washington State aren't going to be able to start spending all that money that they were technically given the other day or awarded the other day. So there's some things to play out, but just what's your stance on this legal battle and how long you could foresee this going on?
Well, let me ask you a question. Have either one of you guys ever been divorced?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then you know what happens when you get divorced. You got to split it all up, right? I got divorced. I had to split it all up, Whether I wanted to get divorced or my wife wanted to get divorced, it didn't matter. If somebody wants out, everything gets split up, at least in our state. I got no idea how you do things in Texas, by the way, but in Washington, it's 50-50, baby. Everything gets split up. So that's what this is. It's a divorce. Right? I mean, you got 10 teams that are walking away, and whatever money is left over should be split up evenly among everybody. And I get that Oregon State and Washington State need the money more so than UW or USC or Oregon. That totally makes sense. And you want to bring out your moral compass and play the moral ground and say, let's give Oregon State and Wazoo a little bigger piece of the pie because they're staying in the Pac-12 and they're keeping the kids and they're keeping the house and they're going to have all the bills to pay. Okay, fine. Whatever. But the idea that Oregon State and Wazoo are going to split that money up 50-50 and teams like UW and Oregon are getting nothing, I just don't see that. I don't think it's right, and it's not going to happen like that. But Oregon or State and Wazoo, I think, are going to end up basically morphing into a Pac-12 with the Mountain West teams when it's all said and done. And they're going to be hurting financially, guys. There's no question. Their media revenue is going to drop big time in their next contract.
Softy, last thing for me. Oregon State, I've watched all these teams in the Pac-12 because they've been so entertaining. They're also, a lot of them are very good and Heisman candidates too. Right. Oregon State, when it comes to like the physicality, to playing tough, I know they can put up points or whatever. Is this one of the teams in the Pac-12 that might be one that is a grinder the way Utah has been the last couple of years?
Yeah. Yeah, they had that going against Utah, and you know what? They had a guy, I'm not sure if you guys caught this or not, Alfonso Tupatala. He's a local guy, linebacker. Where's number 11? He picked off Bryson Barnes. He ran it back and then dropped the ball at the 1-yard line, right? Like Deshaun Jackson. He pulled a Leon Lett without Steve Tasker there to knock the ball away, and it was embarrassing. But my point is this. If he just holds that ball for another half a second and crosses the goal line, that's a 40-28 win for UW against Utah over the weekend, and they double the spread against the Utes, man. So, Arizona State, same thing. Arizona, Jeremy Bernard doesn't fumble at the 2-yard line They win that game going away against the Wildcats. USC, Penix doesn't have a ball to get tipped by a 6'5" linebacker to start the first drive of the second half, and they go up 14 points. They may have run USC out of the building last Saturday in the Coliseum. So it's the little things that are keeping UW from blowing these teams out. But the cool thing is that now they know how to win, and they can play any style of game, whether it's the Oregon game or the USC game or a grind-out game against Utah. They've done it all. We'll see if they can do it again on Saturday. And by the way, vote Penix for the Heisman Trophy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dave Softy Mahler, KJR Radio in Seattle. That's a great game to watch, Oregon State, Washington. And thank you for your time, Softy. Have a great, great weekend. Always full throttle with your hair on fire. Thanks for his time. He's never not entertaining. You don't have to agree with some of what he said. Some of you do, some of you don't. But he's a great guest, and we love when we can get Softy on the show. When we come back, Max Olson, theathletic.com, he had his latest stop rate as far as the best defensive teams in the country. His thoughts about the Big 12 weekend. We will have our college football picks this week. We'll have that today just a little bit after 5 o'clock following Craig and Off the Radar. And this is 365 Sports. So I was on my way to the studio, picked up the phone, called Aaron Duvall, the owner of TexasBeefHouse.com, the Duvall family, just outside of Tyler in White House, Texas. They got the big ranch, aged Wagyu beef. He didn't answer. I left him a voicemail telling how much we love his business and also appreciate his loyalty. So I then called Samantha, and I'm going to record something with her. I told you, you know about the auction they had last weekend. It was so overwhelming, and in fact, what did I say? Quadruple the number of sales that they expected. It was so popular. They're going to do something with their steaks in the first few days of December. I'll have more details on that in a moment. But that's going to be like December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, right after Thanksgiving. So more details on that. The auction was it's mind-boggling of how good it was because people know of TexasBeefHouse.com. We have 4 more weeks of the TexasBeefHouse.com college football pick'em. So we have the next 3 weeks to the end of regular season, and then we'll do one more probably in the semifinal round of the college football playoffs. But we'll have that information. But we have that college picks, the link that will go through at least the next 3 weeks, including the conference championship weekend. They have incredible product, great people, TexasBeefHouse.com.
The right call can make all the difference on and off the field. I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. When it's time for a new car, truck, or SUV, Bird Colgin Ford is the right call. Come check out our award-winning lineup of best-selling models in their class, like the Mustang, Explorer, Expedition, F-150, and Super Duty. Make the right call for your next vehicle at Bird Colgin Ford. Bird Colgin Ford proudly supports Baylor Athletics. Sic 'em Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, bar, silver sneakers, and more. New bikes arrived and are waiting for you to test yourself, compete against yourself with a screen monitoring your speed, miles, resistance, and power, and with indoor cycling classes every day. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Botch, and Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and a tanning bed. 16 tennis courts, beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman, assistant junior pro Kenna, adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website, wacotennis.com, or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Max Olson, Thursdays at 4, most of the time. He also has about 9 other things he's juggling professionally, if not 20, plus a child as they head into the holidays as well. Max Olson joins us, Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak. So, Max, right before we started the show, the Jim Harbaugh news, just kind of, I know it's not over because the NCAA has their deal, but kind of nice that has been cleared up and now we can discuss other things.
Yeah, that was surprising. But I think it probably is a statement that, while you can understand why on Friday night, Saturday morning, Michigan thought that a temporary restraining order was the step they needed to take to try to get Jim Harbaugh cleared to coach against Penn State. I think when you've had a few days to kind of deliberate on that approach and this hearing that was supposed to happen at the end of this week, I think you kind of realize that's probably not a winning strategy to have Jim Harbaugh under oath about what's going on in Michigan. So, probably a good realization there and a good, settlement by Michigan to say, yep, he's going to miss these 3 games. Maybe they feel like they got to compromise on that of some confidence that, the Big Ten won't hold them out of their conference title game or things like that. But, not surprised that that one was not going to go to a hearing. I am a little surprised that we avoided it, though.
Max, part of that also on the Big Ten side is I have a feeling that Michigan was going to really throw a bunch of stuff at the wall. And then even if their suspension holds up, then they have to deal with, well, what about Rutgers and stuff like that?
Yeah, and it pits the Big Ten against Michigan in a very adversarial scenario, and that's not, certainly they had to step in and do something from a sportsmanship and integrity of the game standpoint. But I don't think if you're the Big Ten, you really want to go to war with that university and one of your most valuable brands and everything. So, I don't know if this is just a little bit of a cooler heads prevail thing. Certainly, ultimately a very big deal that Jim Harbaugh will not be coaching against Ohio State. And, I don't know if that's maybe probably a little bit unsatisfying to Ohio State fans that there's sort of an asterisk on that game to some degree. But, as we saw against Penn State, I think that coaching staff can handle it. But it definitely adds to a game that was already going to be possibly the best of the year.
Max, the floor is yours. Can you please explain the Big 12 tiebreaker procedures?
I can, and I'd rather not. Yeah. I think that the real problem here, obviously we're all kind of used to this. We all remember why the Big 12 had to create a tiebreaker policy. And ever since then, it's been pretty straightforward because you had round robin schedules. So you always have head to head to come back to and in settling ties, right? I think the challenge this year was, okay, we're not doing round robin, and there's going to be situations like, Oklahoma and K-State don't play each other this year. So how do you settle that if there's like a 3-way tie and there wasn't a game between 2 of the teams, right? And so I think the Big 12 side would say they clarified that the language was maybe not as precise as it needed to be on those tiebreaker policies, which they did change going into the year, obviously, in having the 14-team league this year. I think the people on the Oklahoma media side would say that they maybe they changed it or fixed it or whatever. But regardless, still 2 weeks of games to play here. And, I think the thing that will get really crazy is if Iowa State does beat Texas, and then you've kind of got everybody tied there in second place.
Max, the stop rate, you put that up. It's a great kind of a barometer throughout the year. Garrett, do we have that available, the stop rate that Max has? Here we go. Michigan rolling through people. How about that? Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Penn State, the first 4 all from inside the Big Ten. 3 of them in the same division.
Did you see where Baylor's at?
I don't even.
Very last.
125 or what?
121. Yeah, 121.
I'm surprised that you decided to type that long.
Yeah.
You got things to do, Max.
I don't know how much stopping's actually going on at that rate.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's I mean, the stop rate's it's still above 50%, but it's not very high, very far above 50%. Yeah. No, it's you're right to mention the ones at the top. Certainly, the Big Ten stands out, and they kind of always do when it comes to this measure. How about Iowa being third in this, playing 125 drives on defense, which is more than almost anybody in the sport, and still getting stopped on 80% of their drives? Phil Parker, he probably should be there at the end of the deal with the Broyles Award among the best assistants in the country. Very impressive by them, and certainly. Michigan's been in this top spot for many weeks here, and we will see if Ohio State or any other offenses can actually get over them.
It would be nice to see a school take the offensive coordinator who gets the least from his defense, whoever that may be. Of course, you would know it's on your list, and then Phil Parker and put them together and see what would happen.
You're saying Phil Parker should go to USC?
Yeah, probably.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, my
I'm sure
God.
they would
You want to see what happens?
Yeah, that would be great.
I think Phil Parker would probably be bothered by how they practice a little bit out in Southern California. Part of that, guys, honestly, it's easy to say, well, the offenses suck in the Big Ten, so that's why the defenses are good or whatever. But part of it is Iowa knows, they know what they've got. They know they have to play complementary football and play the field position game, which usually benefits their defense. So, that group, has done a terrific job this year. Obviously, getting very little run support.
The news just came down just a little while ago, but you've already got something up on The Athletic about Jalen Daniels and the big decision to return to Kansas in 2024. Your thoughts on what that means for Lance Leipold and company, and obviously been a tough year for him. So good news for college football fans and especially Kansas fans.
Yeah, candidly, guys, for over the past month, I've just heard a lot of speculation from coaches outside of Kansas, wondering what's going on there. Why isn't he playing? Is his back injury really that bad? Is he just trying to take a 4-game redshirt and transfer out and have 2 years of eligibility somewhere else? And that's not the case. I mean, Jalen Daniels is very committed to being at Kansas. This back injury has been lingering since fall camp. It's been a problem. I'm fortunately I haven't experienced back issues like this before, but everyone I've talked to says, yeah, if you've had them, they're brutal. And I think it's just been really tough for him to ramp up back to play without having setbacks. And so for him to come out and announce, about 2-3 weeks before the portal opens that he's not looking to leave Kansas, I think that's huge for that program. It's huge for Lance Leipold. And, if you look at their roster, if they can get Devin Neal and Kobe Bryant and some of these guys that on their team that are juniors that have another year, if they can get or juniors or seniors that have an extra year, if they can get these guys come back, Kansas is going to have one of the most experienced teams in the conference next year. And I think that's certainly going to be a factor for Lance Leipold as he gets calls about these jobs that are opening. I think they really feel like they are setting up for 24 to be a big year. Jason Bean is not back next year, but getting Jalen Daniels back and getting that guy healthy, it's easy to forget. He was the preseason Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
Looked really good in the 3 starts that he had this year. Just can't wait to see that kid get back to normal. Hope whether it's the bowl game this year or next season, that's just massive for that program that he's all in and wants to stick around.
Texas can clinch a spot in the title game with a win, obviously, at Ames, in Ames against Iowa State. But is the Big 12 yet again, and sometimes the names at the top change. Oklahoma for many, many years was in that mix, like every year. But
every year.
Yeah, it seems like every year there are 3 or 4 teams that outperform what the expectations are. and there's 2 or 3. Baylor's one of them that like falls apart. So is it still one of the most competitive, top to bottom conferences in your opinion in the country?
I think so. I mean, and honestly, guys, ever since we've talked about this before, but ever since Kansas got good, it's like, well, who's supposed to be at the bottom here? I mean, you kind of assumed that Cincinnati and Houston were going to have a tough year, and they have. But beyond that, I mean, you watch these week to week, and Oklahoma's going to BYU this week. Maybe that's going to be easy. Maybe it's not. Like some of these, like certainly if you asked Oklahoma State fans a week ago, they thought they were going to win out, and you go and get blown out in Orlando, right? So it's like I do think part of it is just kind of a product of the tough schedule. And man, like some of these teams, they get hit by injuries, and then you kind of see their inexperience. It can be a really rough run because you just don't get. There just aren't a bunch of weeks baked into the schedule where you're like, well, this will be the easy win. So, it's kind of that's one of the features of this league. It's not a bug; it's a feature, and it does lead to, if you look at it over the last 5 years. Yeah, I know Oklahoma's been in a bunch of them, but we tend to see new teams in this conference title game pretty much every year.
Max, we can, dive into the coaching carousel that's probably spinning to Waco at any given moment. But what are your thoughts on some of the moves that have gone down? Jimbo, Zach Arnett, Boise State, all that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think I was surprised by the timing on Texas A&M right after they clinched a bowl game. I get it from the A&M standpoint. If the money is not a problem, then you have to really assess your program very critically. And I think it's understandable that they felt like there's not really a lot of positive momentum to point to, and that it was probably going to be a very expensive offseason to run it back for that roster and that staff. So, I'm really interested to see where Ross Bjork goes with that search. I think if you are kind of doing the common sense hire here and you're going for a Jeff Traylor or a Mike Elko, like I think that's a good outcome. I don't think that there's like after the Jimbo Fisher era, I would not be very worried about like how sexy is this hire. I think you need a program builder right now because you've got all these resources and all these positive things going on. You just need someone to run a better organization and actually, have discipline, have a good culture and all that. And I think they're looking at the right kind of people. Lance Leipold on that list too. So I'm interested to see what, obviously that one's going to move quickly. I think they want to have somebody in place by the beginning of December. So curious to see how quickly that one goes. Mississippi State, I think you've got a new AD there who certainly, gave Zach Arnett 1 year to kind of prove that he can be a head coach. It's been a rough year there. I think you can make a really good hire there, and there's a lot of appealing coaches there. If I were there and you got guys like Jamie Chadwell you could go get, like I think that makes sense. I think you want to be a little bit unique at Mississippi State to compete in that conference that's only getting tougher. Definitely, in your neck of the woods, I think I think everybody's kind of looking and wondering, okay, what's going to happen at Arkansas? What's going to happen at Baylor? What's going to happen at Houston? I think those are kind of the ones that you're wondering, what is the status there after pretty frustrating seasons? And, I think obviously UCLA is not a done deal yet, but, what's going on there? Who's the right kind of coach for UCLA if Chip Kelly is indeed on the way out? Is that Jed Fish? Is that somebody that's in that league? Curious what direction Martin Jarman would go in there if they're moving on.
Max, I guess, some pretty big games coming up this weekend. We don't have time to go over all of them, but I guess the biggest one, Washington and Oregon State. What are your thoughts of the Beavers at home, where they've been very, very good and could shake up the whole playoff race here, but slight favorites as the undefeated Huskies roll into town?
Yeah, how about the undefeated Huskies as a road underdog this week? Pretty telling that Vegas thinks this game is going to be really competitive. And, I think that's a testament to Oregon State's playing good defense. Obviously, they've brought out the best in DJ Uiagalelei, and I think that they've got a chance in this game. I think Washington, if Washington's going to lose a game in the regular season, it's probably going to be this one. I'm not saying I totally buy it. I think I kind of like Washington at the points here, but I think Oregon State doesn't have, they haven't really been a giant killer if you look at where their wins have come from this year. But this is a really interesting spot for Washington, and I think you you just got to find a way to survive this one, because I do think it's going to be that place is going to be packed. It's going to be a big time atmosphere there, and a big challenge for Michael Penix and this offense against a team that I think can play with them for 4 quarters. I don't know that I see the upset, but this weekend does have a few games where you're kind of like, okay, maybe this is the week when we get a little bit of like real chaos.
Max, I know you got to go, but the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the SEC, not the ACC and or the Big 12, but those 3 superpower conferences, at least for now, don't they each have a pretty legitimate chance, if things work out, to have the possibility of 2 teams in the semifinals?
You're saying 2 for the ACC?
No, not the ACC.
Oh,
it's
not
Florida
the
State
ACC.
or bust.
Okay.
It's probably
Gotcha.
Texas or bust. And the other 3 conferences each have a pretty good shot at maybe not good odds, but having 2 teams get in the Final Four.
Yeah, I think that's right. And honestly, guys, we haven't gotten too deep into even though we get these weekly rankings that are supposed to mean something. It's interesting. We haven't gotten too deep into this process of kind of 3, 4, 5, 6. Who has the best resume? Who's really the most deserving here? And I think that's going to become pretty important in the next couple of weeks, because it certainly is possible. As much as we like to kind of play with these scenarios on Twitter and who would you pick in this situation and stuff, it definitely is possible we're heading to a situation where there are 6 very good deserving teams for 4 spots. Like, I think that's possible. And I'm not saying that would, it doesn't necessarily mean, that Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC title game or something like that. But, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Washington, I think you're absolutely right, Smokey. We're going to have more teams than we have spots this year, just in terms of the quality. And what is the committee supposed to do with that? They prefer it to be easy decisions, and I don't think we're going to have one this year.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time, Max. Have a great week. Again, obviously Thanksgiving next week. Enjoy it. Enjoy the next couple of weeks. We'll get you on right after that. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That's Max Olson from theathletic.com with us every Thursday around 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have clarification the next time we talk to Max. I don't really think we need to ask too many analysts about Baylor because we're right here.
Yeah.
But I am curious to hear what like an outsider and who he may have talked to that, what kind of angle he's hearing on that situation. But, the carousel makes things more interesting, that's for sure. I mean, we were going to be plenty fed with these games coming up, but now you add in the mix of the head coaching jobs opening up, and not to mention National Signing Day, and there's a little sprinkling of realignment with the Pac-12 stuff going on, and so it's as busy as ever and would have it no other way right in the middle of November. It's awesome.
All right, well, we will have our college football picks in the 5 o'clock hour. Coming up next, we have had Angie Machado. She covers Oregon State for 247. It's been a busy day, obviously, with the newest news illegally on both Oregon State and Washington State, but also the alliance scheduling news of when that might pop, and just a matter of what it is. That plus Oregon State's playing Washington. Angie Machado just around the corner, and this is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, pioneerboys.com on the online. New facility that opened up back in December, now close to being a year old. Opened up on December 5th back in 2022, and been in business since 1943. Just think about the longevity. Think about how many customers that they have had first time and then multiple times and repeat customers over and over again to stay in business as a locally owned company when there are so many massive superstores that come in to basically every city and can get more product and cheaper. But Pioneer Steel and Pipe, because of who they are, what they represent, how they have treated you, the customer, they weathered the storm, and now they have a big, big building that is amazing. In addition to their standard long lengths and tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, they now carry several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut, which will save time for anyone, including you, the customer, who doesn't need or can't haul longer lengths. So that saves the time and also the process of maybe even more money spent, now less money spent and less time. The 2,500 square foot showroom with over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, do-it-yourself components, hardware for any project, whether you're a professional contractor or a weekend warrior. Most importantly, the location may have changed, but the values have not. It is still about a handshake and about, yes, you matter. We want to hear from you and we want to provide for you. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. Pioneer Boys on Loop 340 east of 35 in Waco.
The right call can make all the difference on and off the field. I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. When it's time for a new car, truck, or SUV, Bird Colgin Ford is the right call. Come check out our award-winning lineup of best-selling models in their class, like the Mustang, Explorer, Expedition, F-150, and Super Duty. Make the right call for your next vehicle at Bird Colgin Ford. Bird Colgin Ford proudly supports Baylor Athletics. Sic 'em Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, is your holiday item superstore. Half spiral hams, 8 to 10 pounds for $4.45 a pound. Pit hams, 12 pounds for $4.45 a pound. Bone-in hams, 18 to 22 pounds for $3.40 per pound. Whole raw turkeys from 12 to 16 pounds for $2.50 a pound. Whole smoked turkeys, that's smoked turkeys at 9 to 12 pounds for $3.75 a pound. And mini pit hams, 6 to 8 pounds for $5.99 a pound. And don't forget, they have full service butcher shop where you can find what you want: pork, poultry, seafood, and beef. And I bring up the beef because big beef tenderloin or a prime rib. Brian Bauer and the Bauer family, full service bakery with fresh baked kolaches every morning and bread and cold beer and wine. Tailgate needs from pellet fuel to charcoal. Waco Custom Marketplace and the holiday items, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Angie Machado will join us momentarily. Covers Oregon State for 247 Sports. Many things with Oregon State in the news, from their game to the possible alliance scheduling with the Mountain West and also the latest legal issue. We will look at a quote from Dana Holgerson from earlier this week, later in the show, on the University of Houston in Orlando and UCF, and who really is Space City. I get a kick out of a lot of things that he says, but Angie Machado now joins us, 247 Sports, and covers Oregon State. Well, you have had nothing on your plate lately at all involving Oregon State football.
Nothing at all. And gosh, I mean, huge weekend for Oregon State. Actually, 2 huge weekends coming up for Oregon State, with Washington this week and then Oregon next week. But this whole realignment, yeah, it's keeping me busy.
Let's start with the latest legal thing, the injunction. So right now it kind of is back on hold or whatever, but Angie, in the end, what do you think really, if Oregon State and Washington State do get a chance to make the decisions by themselves, and maybe they do, what do they really want to do here? Because they're not going to just say, hey, you split $200 million and we split $200 million.
Yeah, no, I mean, what they're saying is that they want to, create and rebuild the Pac-12, Pac-10 conference. So what that looks like down the road, I think is kind of still up in the air somewhat. But, I think when you look at it, I mean, this whole realignment thing is not done. We know the ACC is potentially going to, look different in a couple of years as SEC and Big Ten can make their way in there. So, I think what Oregon State and Washington State are looking to do is somehow create some stability for the next 2 years, have some type of a schedule in place, and then, look to rebuild from there. So, the narrative today has been all over that scheduling alliance with the Mountain West, which my sources are telling is not the first plan of attack. I mean, that would be down the list, kind of a last resort. So, will Oregon State play Mountain West teams in the next 2 years? Absolutely. But from what I'm hearing, the schedule would look more like 5 Power 4 teams, 5 or 6 G5 teams, and then they already have Idaho State on the schedule, so an FCS school.
So they would kind of be adopting them in Washington State like the BYU scheduling model. They just have to do it really fast.
Yeah, so it'd be an independent. I mean, if you look out there's a lot of schools with some openings. So it would not be impossible to do. It would take some, maneuvering, but yeah, work as an independent. And this is what Oregon State coaches have been telling commits as well. The football coaches have been telling commits that no, they're not going down and playing or, not becoming Mountain West. So, a scheduling alliance a couple weeks ago, I know Mountain West was saying if there was a scheduling alliance in place, it would be, a scheduling alliance with the thought that Oregon State and Washington State would absorb the Mountain West, the entirety of the Mountain West in 2 years. That doesn't make any sense for Oregon State. In Washington State, there's no need to take all those schools. In 2 years' time, the Mountain West TV contract is up and the buyouts are off. So I could see that being a time when Oregon State and Washington State could go out, pick and choose who they want. And it makes sense to bring in a San Diego State, a Fresno, Boise, UNLV. But they don't need to go out and get, Utah State, New Mexico, all of those programs. So a lot on the table. And I think if it's just hey, we're going to play some games together, that's one thing. But an actual alliance that would lead to a quote unquote reverse merger would be a bad scenario for Oregon State and Washington State.
Angie, I've been able to see a little bit just thanks to social media, but how would you describe the way that Oregon State faithful have been able to both balance the enjoyment of what is a really fun football season and a really exciting last couple of weeks, but also the uncertainty of the future? Is it made for just kind of an interesting stew of emotions for this football year?
Yeah, in August it was bad. I'm not going to lie, it was kind of a downer when all this kind of happened and everything kind of fell apart. But I will say that things have kind of picked up. I think the team, Coach Smith, and fans have all just said, okay, let's enjoy what we have. Now this week it is. I can sense even on our message board in the lodge at Beaver Blitz, there's some bittersweet. Like hey, this could be the last Pac-12 as we know it game at Reser Stadium. So. It's senior night. It's going to be a big game, but, now it's kind of moving forward to, okay, how does Oregon State and Washington State move forward? And, kind of hold steady for 2 years, before trying to either, completely rebuild the Pac-10, Pac-12 or, move into another conference.
There were people or players that everyone thought might be the stars for Oregon State, and a lot of them, most of them, have done exactly what expected. Are there a couple of unsung players, Angie, you'd like to bring up that perhaps have outperformed or played much better than anyone thought and have been a difference?
Yeah, I think going into the season, everybody expected, Texas native Damian Martinez to be a star, and he has. He hit his 1,000-yard rushing mark just last week. DJ Uwangalele at quarterback, transferred in from Clemson, has really elevated that position for the Beavs. And, that was kind of we all said last year Oregon State won 10 games, but they were a good quarterback away from maybe winning 11 or 12. So those two are kind of what was expected. The offensive line has been really strong for the Beavers, which was expected. I don't think anybody saw right tackle Tali Fuaga really kind of being the guy. I mean, he's like shot up the draft boards. Last I saw was first round, 7th overall pick. So he's really, really, kind of elevated his game. Joshua Gray at left tackle. But looking on the defense, you look at a guy like Andrew Chatfield, who transferred to Oregon State from Florida 2 years ago. He's really emerged as a guy. Kitano Ladapo, a senior safety, started as a walk-on. And again, he had his first 2 interceptions of the season just last week. So a couple guys really stepping up for Oregon State. Jack Velling, a tight end, 8 touchdowns on the year for him. So he's right in the mix of some of the top tight ends in the country.
Angie, Jonathan Smith is one of the best young coaches in the country, highly thought of all over the place. The secret's kind of out now on how good he is. He is an alum, so again, it would be harder to tear him away. But is there some nervousness around Corvallis about him leaving because of the uncertain future of where their conference affiliation lies?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's here. I think he's at Oregon State. He has a young family. I think his oldest is a sophomore in high school and entrenched in sports. So, that's part of it. He is a beef. Like you mentioned, he was the best quarterback in Oregon State's history, really. I mean, aside from Terry Baker, more recent history, I should say. But yeah, I mean, I think if the uncertainty is there, if Oregon State's going to get, relegated to a Mountain West type level, absolutely, I could see some movement. He has been in discussions, I've been told, with the AD, and he knows exactly the plan. He knows exactly what the plan is going forward. And apparently, the plan is to have something announced, schedule and everything wise here the first part of December, before the transfer portal, before signing day. So that's kind of the drop dead date. But yes, he's being, thought of many job openings. I've heard of some other job openings that are not quite open yet that there's speculation on, but all indications is that he will be in Corvallis. And like I said, that's why this uncertainty and why finding a good schedule and a workable path forward that is not merging with the Mountain West is so imperative to the future of Oregon State and Washington State.
Angie, a lot going on. Wow, off the field, but on the field as well, as we've kind of touched on, and nowhere easier to look right now than coming up this Saturday. I mean, what a game in store. And right now, Oregon State, slight favorites at home. They've been very, very good there. Why have they been so good at Reser Stadium? And what are your thoughts on this matchup and the fact that at least Vegas thinks that the Bees are slight favorites here?
Yeah, that line opened. Washington State, I think, was a 2.5 to 3 point favorite on Monday when it opened. So money is shifting over to the Beavers' way. Oregon State has lost one game. They're 16-1 at home over the past 3 seasons. So, and that was a 3-point loss to USC last year. So this is a team that plays, like you said, very strong at home. The crowd is going to be crazy. I can't even explain how crazy I expect this fan base to be. Student tickets, 6,000 student tickets were gone within 20 minutes today when they went online to be picked up. Standing room only. They had to go to the fire marshal to expand the standing room only tickets. This is going to be a crazy crowd. It's going to be loud. So, I expect some false starts. That's, kind of the MO when you're playing at home at Reser. It's going to cause some sound issues for the visiting team. Washington's is an interesting one. I think, first of the season, beginning of the season, I said they were the most talented team in the Pac-12. I had them number 1. I still think they're super talented, but they're starting to show some cheeks there. Some close wins, close kind of eking out some wins against some not great opponents. So the weather is supposed to be an issue. Each day that goes by, it gets rainier and rainier in the forecast. So I do think that can bode well for Oregon State, and the fact that Oregon State's run game is better than the Washington Huskies. So Michael Penix is such a talent. The wide receivers are so talented. That defense is going to have to put some pressure on him and hopefully force him into some bad decisions.
How much does this get amped up in the next 2 weeks? I mean, obviously they're on the road next week, but that they could play not only play the ultimate spoiler, but also wind up in the championship game.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's kind of fun about all this. It's not just, hey, Oregon State could spoil 2 big Northwest rivals. They could spoil, but also find themselves in the Pac-12 championship game. So, and I think that's the way that Coach Smith is handling this. It's not about ruining someone else's day. It's about playing for their own goals. And yeah, Oregon's looking tough. So Civil War down in Eugene next week is going to be a good one as well. So there's a lot on the line, and that's one of the areas I think Coach Smith does such a good job is kind of sometimes he seems very emotionless, but he's able to keep the team not too high and not too low, and that could help the Bees a lot going forward in the next 2 weeks with all the pressure.
Can you please paint a picture of Corvallis and what that scene will be like on Saturday?
It'll be crazy. So Oregon State just opened up the new side of Research Stadium, a complete rebuild. So that stadium, it's built. I've been around the program a long time. So back in the 2000s, before they did the old new side, I guess, that opened in 2005, Dennis Erickson was actually very involved in the design process of the stadium. And one of his big things was to keep the stadium close to the field and make it real up and down so that the sound really rained down on the field. And that's really what they took to heart. So that it's going to be loud. It's going to be, the students go sideline to sideline or end zone to end zone behind the home team. So they are right there in the middle of the action, and it'll be a rowdy crowd. That's for sure. 4:30 kickoff. So on ABC, that gives the co-eds plenty of time to pre-funk and tailgate, and it'll be a fun crowd.
Angie, thank you very much for the knowledge on Oregon State in many different ways, and continued luck in covering so many different angles of not just football, but everything else, legal, realignment, whatever else you want to call it, or what happens with Oregon State and Washington State. And good luck this weekend. Thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
All right. Angie Machado, 247 Sports on Oregon State.
Yeah, I didn't think about the scheduling things. Obviously, got to figure out a schedule, but just for recruiting purposes, be like, hey, this is who you'll play next year. Like, you can't even answer that question right now, really, outside of the couple of non-cons you had scheduled. But yeah, I was thinking of just in general, you have to have that. But oh yeah, dang, there's this whole recruiting piece of the puzzle that you have to worry about too. So yeah, that's something that's even more precious, I think, time-wise than I even realized because of that,
No, absolutely. Craig's off the radar around the corner. All right, now, let's see, Garrett. What have we not gotten to? The Outland Trophy semifinalists. This is good news. A couple of players from the Big 12, including Kansas State's Cooper Beebe. He was at Big 12 Media Days. And that big, large human piece of earth, Texas defensive tackle Tavondre Sweat, is on that list, along with Alt and Fuega, Newton, Powers Johnson, and Michigan offensive lineman Zach Zinter. So there you go. You have let's see, how many defensive players? You have two tackles in Newton and also Sweat. Everybody else is on the offensive line.
Yeah, Zurhan Newton, one of the best. Like, people don't hear about him a lot because he's at Illinois.
Yeah,
but he's one of the best defensive players in the country. If you could build me an offensive line with those guys,
oh, my God.
I would never get hit.
I'm trying to think.
I can be the quarterback. Yeah. I would not get hit with those guys.
What do you mean?
Like,
under center?
I'm slow. Like, under center in the shotgun, whatever. If you gave me Joe Alt and Fuaga on the outside, Zinter and BB in the middle, and Powers Johnson as my center, believe me, I'm not getting touched. I could play without shoulder pads.
You could play. You could make
no helmet.
You could convert some 3rd-and-1s if you ever had to face a 3rd-and-1.
Yeah,
and that's exactly right. Thank you very much, Garrett, for that. There is one other note. This is on Kansas and Kansas State. It's a pretty heated rivalry, obviously, right? Dennis Dodd came up with this earlier today that there's a new NIL idea involving Kansas and Kansas State. Dinner with Chris Kleiman and Lance Leipold. Proceeds with that event split between the two collectives of K-State and KU.
I like that. I think that'd be great. There's a lot of collectives that are now doing things in partnership. I don't know how many of them would be rivals, but there is a group of collectives that have kind of come together so that they can get big brand deals maybe regionally. So
it's not going to be Oregon and Oregon State.
Yeah, no. But I think this would be good. I think this would be good, to me. Do it, split the money, knock yourselves out.
The good news about this event? That means they're both still together because it's in March.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in March, so they'll celebrate the storied rivalry between the two, raising NIL funds to support the student athletes.
It wouldn't. It would mean that they're both not leaving to go somewhere else.
That's what I meant. That means they're still together.
Yeah.
They're both.
Greg had a quizzical look on his
so
face.
I was wondering, what are you talking about? They're still together.
That means they're both going to be at Kansas and Kansas State because their names have been
I was thinking
out.
of the schools. I was like, is Kansas going to the Big Ten finally? Is that what's going on? I mean, is that?
Well, they had that opportunity, right?
I mean, there's thoughts. I mean, you never know in this landscape. I mean, with the more narrowing down, how big do you want to go? If you're going to go to 20 schools now, Big Ten, then I mean, Kansas has got to be up there at that point, I would think. So, but yeah, no, that's how I was taking it because we were talking about all this realignment.
No,
but
I was talking about the coaching carousel.
That's great news. Yeah, if you want to look at it that way, I mean, you can always cancel things, but I don't really fear that with these two. That would, I really think nothing of Kleiman leaving K-State. I think that's like as perfect of a marriage as you could have. And Leipold, for the most part, I don't think that as well. But, it depends on who comes calling, right?
Yeah.
And so right now, I think especially the Jalen Daniels news, that you feel good about that. So, yeah, I'm going to take that as positive news. I hope they're both in the Big 12 for a long time because I think they're great fits.
Yep.
I think they're great football coaches. I think that the Sunflower Showdown, I guess the Sunflower Showdown had to crawl so that or had to walk so that the Bluebonnet Battle could run name-wise. That's going to be in strong shape for years to come. And, I think that's all great. So that's a cool idea and thinking a little outside the box, which I'm all for.
So if the Bluebonnet gets so much of this negativity, the Sunflower...
It dawned on me last night of like that was but it's the Sunflower State. It's the Sunflower State though. So like there's a tie in the Bluebonnet.
What's the flower of Texas?
It's the Bluebonnet.
Yeah.
But it's not the Bluebonnet State.
No.
It's
the Lone Star State.
It's the Lone Star State. Lone Star sounds cooler as
By
well.
the way, to me, you need to get Amanda on the phone and tell her to get Bill Self and Jerome Tang to do an NIL luncheon.
That'd be cool.
And then you guys can do that after the Final Four.
I bet you that neither of them would say no to it.
No,
honestly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I saw
I mean, like,
another video of Tang in the locker room with his players. He's always got some kind of gospel music going or some sort of hip-hop or whatever.
Yeah.
He's just so good.
No, I think it's one of those things that I think for a rival, like it really stinks when your rival has a likable head coach because if you then realize...
Yeah, I don't like that. I like Sarkisian.
Yeah,
you never would have seen Gary Patterson or Art Briles do this.
But a guy like Jerome Tang or like Chris Kleiman, same thing. Like if you don't like Chris Kleiman, that's kind of on you.
Yeah.
To me, I think if you don't like Jerome Tang, it really says something about you as a person. Like you've got like if you're like something about that guy rubs me the wrong way. You're like, you know what, you need therapy.
Oh, there's somebody. Remember what everyone said because they didn't really know or they just didn't like the fact Beta was building about once with Scott Drew. And then he wins a national title and everyone goes, no, he's really as legitimate as you could possibly know.
Yeah.
All right. Dana Holgerson. Got to bury this one because I've had it in hand for 2 or 3 days. Dana Holgerson, during a coach's show earlier this week on the advanced game against Oklahoma State, took issue with UCF's claim to space. He wore those uniforms, the Knots uniforms last weekend, goes in and that's first of all, you don't use Central Florida, it's UCF, has got those unis. I don't know what the heck they are, but they are some blue unis, some Space City thing. I thought we were Space City. The launch pad is like 45 minutes away from Orlando. I've seen it in Cape Canaveral. It's not close. They don't say, Orlando, we got a problem.
Oh, I love this. I love it. I love it so much. I love when they do these things, these good-natured ribbing deals, like who's the real Space City. Just as a NASA nerd myself, they couldn't do it without either one of them, So, but yes, I mean, Houston certainly does have a claim to that as well. But look, first come, first serve. So if Orlando got there before you did, then it's fine. But, and it's 45 minutes away.
Yeah, and I think they got a new name. It's going to be the Daffodil Clash for these for this rivalry.
By the way,
no, I mean, in all seriousness though, like if the Big 12 will be smart, or not the Big 12, but Baylor and TCU get smart and actually go back to the rivalry and make it what it should be, unique. Like Farmageddon is super unique, and whatever this could turn into, like something cool, then. I think there's something there, like marketing-wise.
The space race.
Yeah, like something along those lines. There's definitely something there to market, and now you've got the coaches, getting a little involved in the fun of it. And UCF, like those were cool uniforms, and what a game to break them out.
North Carolina a little bit.
Yeah, what a game to break them out, the Citronauts, And so I think there's something there, and you're trying to build this up, and you're trying to build it in some ways, not entirely from scratch, but in many ways from scratch. And I know that they've, had their clashes in the past. They were in the American together and all of that. But yeah, like put that out front and make that more of a thing. And you have Farmageddon, and you have the Revivalry. And whatever else with the new teams, who knows, like if Tech and Arizona suddenly are huge rivals or something, and just try to build some history. And then there'll be history that's created that you're not even intending to, because some coach will end up hating another coach, and there's a big loss, and then there's a blood feud. So, I mean, there's some things to build here, but the marketing needs to be a little sharper. But I think the marketing for UCF as the space team has been really sharp, and now Houston's biting back, and I like it. So
that one
good.
should be the space race.
Yeah.
Texas Tech and Arizona, if that becomes a rivalry. If it does, I'm trademarking this right now. Save the video, TM, the tumbleweed tussle.
There you go. Yeah, I'll just a gust of wind. A gust of wind will go from Lubbock to Tucson in a very millisecond. By Bracket Cat, more Tang Talk, guys. We play Providence in the Bahamas on Friday with a lot of these tournaments and games, of course, that are going on. Good for them. Good for Kansas State and KU for what they're doing, and also with Holgerson and UCF with Gus Malzahn with what they are doing. Our college picks around the corner. Craig's top 5. Craig's off the radar is next.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that I've counted on, and they are the people that you can count on as well when it comes to getting your car fixed up. If you're needing body work after a wreck, like in my case, or if you're just going to get your oil changed, or perhaps you are in the market for a brand new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle, all of those things. You're looking to trade in. They can take care of every single one of those things that you may be looking to get done. And right now there's a bit of construction out in front of the dealership over on Highway 6, so they are trying harder to make buying a car easier. And right now they've got the Buicks, a perfect combination of first-class luxury and value like no other SUV. It's ranked the #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers. Buick offers amazing value, and right now you can save $5,000 on a 2024 Buick Enclave at Richard Carr Buick. Also, military and first responders save an additional $500, plus qualified Buick buyers get 1.9% financing and no payments until 2024. So there you go as far as the new offerings. They've got the Buick lineup. Check that out. #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality. They also have the trades. Right now they're trading for the best. They've got a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks, around 100 used cars and trucks to choose from, all inspected, 172-point inspection, and the Richard Carr seal of approval, which goes a long way. Their financing goal is 100% credit approval, and they say yes when others say no. Richard Carr is a great man, a great person in the community, and he and his dealership have been representing Central Texas and helping out Central Texas for over 24 years now in the area, building a reputation along the way as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. So go see for yourself. Run by proud Central Texans, proud Baylor Bears. Check out their deals right now by logging on to richardcarr.com. Call them now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports, which is a segment a couple times a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at around at around 4:45, to take a look at some stories normally out of our scope. We're going to talk some Cowboys here in a little while. We talk NFL. We talk a little bit of everything, but it's mostly college sports, college football when all is said and done. So it's an opportunity to sometimes get a little bit out of that. Although I'm going to start off by mentioning a college football story. And as it fits, I will fit those in here. But got a grab bag of stuff. And that starts with, what do you guys think about the James Madison decision? They appealed the decision of not being able to get a waiver to be able to play in the postseason, despite the fact that they are a very good team. They're 10-0, number 18 in the country. It's their first year at this level, and it's the 2-year process to acclimate yourself to the bowl subdivision, which is the top level. So they move over from FCS, and that's all understandable. That was a part of the rules, but because of the success they've had, they were hoping to bypass that, and they filed a waiver, and it got shot down. Was that springtime maybe or summerish? And then it kind of went away for a second, and then it's come roaring back because they're like, hey, let's give this another crack. And the NCAA, with just like, here's the alley-oop, like just dunk this and do something cool for once, decides to swat it away instead and say, nope, there will be no fun or changing here. Even though the Big 12's changing tiebreakers 2 weeks to go in the season, the NCAA can't be bothered to just give James Madison, amongst other teams, the opportunity to go ahead and play in the postseason. So the waiver denied, but a Virginia Attorney General has, in fact, hired a law firm to represent James Madison regarding the decision from Wednesday night, and they are going to take this to court. A 3-page letter from Hunton Andrews Kurth LLC argues for their inclusion in bowl consideration based on the unbeaten record, based on the national ranking, and based on their success in the 2-year process reclassifying from FCS to the bowl subdivision, saying, we fully hope and expect the various committees and as NCAA as a whole will do the right thing and allow JMU to compete in whatever bowl game its performance warrants. JMU is prepared to promptly file a lawsuit in the Western District of Virginia, asserting that the bowl ban violates the antitrust and potentially other laws. So more lawyer stuff in college sports. But what do y'all think about the NCAA and this decision?
It's a little stubborn, old man, get off my lawn. But yet again, it's a rule that they knew when they entered it.
But but they also, I think, didn't know that they'd be this good. I mean,
that's not the NCAA's fault.
No, it's not. But Bill Connelly had a great point on this on Twitter yesterday. He said, look, yes, the rule is the rule, but it also gives the NCAA an opportunity to review it and say, okay, well, maybe it doesn't make as much sense as it did when we did it. Also, it seems to me like a rule that is protecting a very specific scenario from happening that I don't think would happen.
What, the group of 5 that they'd get in?
That not even the college football playoff. I'm talking about the reason they have that rule that you can't go to the postseason is so you don't keep your old schedule and then automatically get in a bowl. I don't think that is.
But that's not going to happen if you move into a new conference that is an FBS conference.
But yeah, so that they're moving in the conference but they made the rule and it's like this.
The rules help to protect them, right?
Yeah, but
you know why the rule is written?
Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Authority.
No,
yeah,
I looked it up. I actually spoke with a couple of people that are involved in this. One of the schools is Tarleton State that was also denied.
Jacksonville State as well.
Which kind of took I was like, wow, yeah. The rule was initially there to make sure that you don't jump into the FBS just for the money and that you end up crashing and burning after a year or two and you are only doing it for the money, which is, to me, hypocritical because that's why you would move up to the FBS because of the fact you're going to be in a bigger conference and have a chance to make more money.
So there are a lot of rules written with the eliminate and everything, laws and all this, where they're trying to prevent this one really specific thing from happening. But then because if you're worried about this thing, the thing you just said,
right,
of that happening, which I don't think it would be true for anybody. If you're going to make that decision, you're going to make it because it's a long-term decision.
I'm gonna Google if it's ever been done before.
But you have that, so they're worried about that happening. Well, okay, if it happened once or whatever, that doesn't mean it's going to happen again. And by doing this, you are encouraging teams to make more of an investment in athletics and do those things. So I just think that it's a rule that needs to be changed. But the NCAA's vibe right now seems to be, especially with the transfer waivers and all that, particularly for the guys who should have been in under the radar or under the wire because when they entered the transfer portal, the rules were one way. They're just saying, well, that was the rule.
The James Madison elevated to the FBS, ineligible for 2 years. They knew that when they went in. Whether they're better than they thought, again, I don't care. The guidelines are intended to assure that schools have the finances and infrastructure to compete at the higher level. Now, there are exceptions to that, but that is what this was about, like I mentioned. What is Sam Houston State doing this year? Getting their asses kicked, right? Mm-hmm. And they are a really pretty good football team. They're 2-8. They've won a couple of games in a row. They're really good. As good as they were, and they redshirted almost their entire team last year, and yet they're still getting bludgeoned. So they're trying to I get what James Madison, and I understand their argument. At the same time, it's not always oh, man, this is not fair. There are, to me, though, some give and take. At least you should have the opportunity to look at things year to year based on what they're going to get into a bowl game because I don't think 82 teams are going to get bowl eligible.
But and here's the other thing, the point I'll make. The NCAA is in the position they are right now because their standard years long thing is well, that's the rule. I mean, you can't they don't. I'm not saying it's a good rule or a bad rule. I think there's probably good and bad parts to it, like you described. That's a really good guardrail for them. But if you can look at things differently and open, then you maybe are not this battering, punching bag that the NCAA has been.
Liberty might have been. No, hold on. I'm just trying to give you some. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I said it just seems like anytime there's a chance to just do something right and just have fun, they turn the opportunity down.
Yeah.
That's why I think people get frustrated is because this is simple. You can't, and I understand your total point. You got the authority side. I don't mean that negatively. It's but you very much got the company line going, and I get the company line. I understand it. But you can make an exception. This is not life or death.
Well, and it's not a rule change. It's a waiver.
Right.
It can be a one-time waiver,
exactly.
And they review it on a case-by-case basis.
All right.
And if Sam Houston didn't stink, they'd be doing the same thing. They'd be doing the exact same thing. So,
does anyone know what the basis was of Liberty being allowed to move up despite not being in a conference as required by rule when it comes to the FBS? The release that it was issued, this is from a little bit earlier. The NCAA granted Liberty request to move to FBS by providing substantial information demonstrating its readiness to begin the reclassification process. the ability to follow current FBS institutions who have demonstrated viability without a conference affiliation, and the university's ability to satisfy the requirement.
Would you like me to translate for that?
Yes,
Liberty
please.
is rich.
Yes, there you go.
Liberty is rich.
So they weren't worried about their finances.
I mean, all this word stuff. I mean, like, I
I'm
get
only
it.
get-
No, I
don't-
know.
I-
I'm not complaining about you. I'm just saying, like, I get all the arguments and the freaking what's in the bylaws and the whatever. Like, I'm just saying,
Okay.
like, this is not. This is not that big of a deal. They're the number 18 team in the country. They'll probably end up in a bowl game, like you said, anyways. But just reporting that they are attempting to take this to court if they don't get their way here. So, yeah, they are threatening legal action if they're not granted a full waiver. Lawsuit hasn't been filed, but they are very much going down that path, and they would seek monetary damages, a temporary restraining order, and a preliminary injunction, as that becomes more and more of the common phrases we're using on this show lately. Because they say they would be irreparably harmed without relief. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be another legal thing here.
Let me be devil's advocate, because it's not because I like to. I'm not smart enough legally to know anything. But did we not just lose our minds because the Big 12 changed their rules 2 weeks before the end of the season?
Yeah, I think it's a bad look.
No, it's a bad look, and it makes no sense.
Because it affects the championship game. This is
especially
going to a
conference
bowl
that
game.
has had a history of being, like, out of date. So, but they changed the rules and everybody lost their minds, and especially with those who were affected worse by it. And we were like, how can you change the rules with 2 weeks left in the season? And that's, again, just a thought about changing the rules about transfer or whatever this is.
But this also, the conference is behind them because the conference needs this good look.
Sure.
So here they are, like, you know, this is not the conference like shadily going like, well, you made the rule. I guess you can't be in the championship game. Oh, damn, sorry that you beat us. You know.
Yeah, the conference.
They're supporting them. They want this.
It's an NCAA rule.
Yeah,
which the Big 10, the Big 12 is a conference rule.
But if the conference, to me, in my opinion, if the conference was kind of split on it and didn't publicly come out and support them, it's like, well, that says a lot. But here they are. They have all this support for it. And look, there might be enough 5 and 17s where you're like,
glad you brought this one up.
No, yeah, it's
I wish we'd have started the show with it.
It's a great topic. It's a great discussion, I think.
Yeah, no, this is a great discussion. But yeah, I think, you know,
I want to go on record. I want James Madison to get a waiver, but there are some things.
But this is also college football having an opportunity to showcase one of its good teams and then just going, well, I mean, it's in the book.
Yeah, I don't
what
know
can
how
we
many
do about this book?
I don't know how many times this has happened before in the past, and if teams that were 9-0 or whatever got sidetracked or not. All right.
Yeah, so like I said, they're just threatening to file a lawsuit if they don't get their way, and this basically was the point here. And, yeah, there's obviously a very hot debate that surrounds it and what should be done and all of that. I think I didn't lose my mind over the Big 12 deciding to change their tiebreaker. I'm going to poke fun at them for that, but that's a large difference from just going to the Bahamas Bowl. Like, nobody's hurt. I guess there's a team that can't go to the Bahamas Bowl because the number 18 team in the country who's unbeaten would get to go to the Bahamas Bowl. I don't feel as bad for, like, whoever that would even be or whatever bowl game that would even be as compared to, like, a tiebreaker for the Big 12 championship that has big effects. Like, that has a massive effect on what could happen after that and what bowl games everybody goes to in the conference. So I think that's a bit of a bigger deal that you're changing that on the fly as opposed to these hundreds of bowl games. You're just like, yeah, this team who's unbeaten at number 18, they can go to this bowl game. Nobody's going to be harmed by that. You'd be harmed. You could potentially have a school harmed by the Big 12 decision.
Yeah, and they've
so that's the difference to me.
They've asked for a waiver like for months, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, since the spring, been appealed, and we're going over and over with it. And so, yeah, it's been dragging on. So anyways, looking like there could be more of a legal battle coming there based on the decision Wednesday. And it wasn't against just James Madison. Mentioned that Jacksonville State and Tarleton State also had similar happen as well. So
you know what Tarleton's record is? 8-3.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good year for the Texans. That's good for them, and the fact they even have an
Beat the
opportunity
hell out
to
of
fight
my
for
alma
that.
mater recently. Like, beat the hell out of him with the former SFA coach, a quarterback as their head coach, Todd Whitten.
All right, so elsewhere, moving on to some other stories here. You've got the Major League Baseball owners approving the move for the Oakland Athletics to Las Vegas. MLB approving that unanimously. The owners today, a move for the A's to move to Vegas, and that is something that's still got a little bit of its own legal battle to fight, but I mean, it's basically on the tracks to happening. Not a surprise that Oakland's losing yet another team, but it's as A's owner John Fisher said, incredibly difficult day for Oakland A's fans. It's a great day for Las Vegas. Rob Manfred, who is not saying exactly what he feels, said, I know, this is a terrible day for fans. Like, what a D, man. He is just such a douchebag. I know, this is a terrible day for fans in Oakland. I understand that. And he tried to, make it sound a little bit nicer, but I think he's probably as much of a guy smiling right now as anybody, because now he's got a franchise that's probably going to be in Las Vegas as opposed to the dump in Oakland. But this is now going down the tracks. It's not yet officially finalized. There is a legal challenge from a teachers union in Nevada as far as the construction and the $1.5 billion stadium on the Strip. So there's something that could get in the way. But now that they've got the approval from all the owners, that's another big step forward. And that leaves Oakland potentially with no more men's pro sports teams. And Las Vegas would have everything but the NBA now at this point as far as the pro sports go. So, last time we saw this would have been the Nationals, as they were the Expos prior to that, back in 2005. You had the Rangers, the World Series champs, were the Washington Senators. That was another relocation. But now looking like the Oakland A's, who were originally in Kansas City and then moved to Oakland.
Yep.
Now the Las Vegas A's is another step closer, as I said.
I agree. Do you know how many people live in Las Vegas?
Not as many live in Oakland.
Well, but it's not just Oakland, right? Isn't it the Bay Area?
Oakland, San Jose,
7 million population in that area. Now, again, some of those are not going to go to Oakland, some of them aren't going to go to San Francisco as fans, but 7 million. Las Vegas has 646,000. I know it's an incredible, and Phil Venzer's a great fan of the show, and we appreciate Phil. But that was one of the things. I wonder if that matters at all.
Well, there's just so much money in Las Vegas, it doesn't matter. And now, here's what really sucks for. I wish I'd have clipped Pierre on Triple Option this morning. He was wearing Pierre Nugent. He's from San Jose. He was wearing his Oakland A's shirt because he was in protest of this horrible thing. As a Northern California sports fan, it sucks. It really sucks for them. And what John Fisher, the owner of the A's, who is the worst owner in Major League Baseball, in my opinion, in that, look, I get that you don't have the funds available. Well, then sell the team. There's going to be somebody who would buy it. Like, how many times does a professional sports franchise go up for sale and somebody goes, nah, I don't want it? Like, there's going to be, you're a billionaire. There's other billionaires out there that want your deal. Billy Beane doing what he did and moneyballing it for as long as he did was a miracle. But ultimately, the rest of the sport figured out what he was doing, and Oakland's just not very good anymore. So they haven't put a good product on the field for the fans. The fans are mad. And then he's going to move to Vegas. He's going to make a ton of money. And 4 or 5 years from now, when the value of the franchise goes up because they've got this big stadium and they've got all this stuff, he's going to make a bunch of money. And if you're an Oakland A's fan, you're like, well,
all right. I was a lifelong Rangers fan, but they were the Washington Senators in D.C., and they had a stadium. It was D.C. Stadium, and it was okay. And they were like one of the worst teams in the league. They moved to Texas, where it was okay. And I remember I was heartbroken, and then all of a sudden my father got government papers. We're moving to Texas, and I was like, that's pretty cool. But that's hard for if you're a fan. What I don't understand, and I cannot relate to Pierre or others, is I moved all over the world my entire life. So, I never had to I'm not going to be able to watch them because I hardly ever got to watch them anyway. I hope that makes sense. So I hate it for those who lose a team in the city they grew up with that they've been attached to forever.
Yeah, so, no pro sports teams men's-wise in Oakland any longer based on this move, although, again, there's some more things to still finalize and work out as far as the stadium. Be 33,000 seats. It'd be right there on the Strip or right off the Strip. I think it's I don't know what the technical terminology is, but it's close. It's either on or it's close to the Strip. So it'll be right down there in the hub of everything else Las Vegas. That even though that's not finalized, I'm not surprised that it was a unanimous vote by the owners.
Kyle Visser in the chat room. The casinos will buy all of the tickets, give them to customers, hire someone to bang on the drums.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Will they remain the Las Vegas A's?
Yeah,
probably. They got the Las Vegas Aces.
They've been the A's. They've been the A's in Philadelphia and Kansas City and everything too. So they'll do that. And look, the Athletics is a brand name. Yeah, I remember when I went to Vegas with my family, and my dad was a big Vegas guy. He went all the time. He had a guy, a casino, like his booker guy named Dominic. He could just call Dominic, and they would say Italian things, and then we'd go to Vegas. But we went to Caesars. Yeah. We went to Vegas one time.
I know a guy.
We went to Vegas one time, and Dominic came out because he wanted to meet us all, and Dad had been there a bunch, and he said, "Hey, do you guys want to go see Cirque du Soleil tomorrow?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Here you go." And that's just kind of how it works.
Yeah.
I know that it's hard for certain, but if you're the casinos and like, all right, well, I'd like some hockey tickets. If you spend enough money at the casino, they will get you hockey tickets. It does not matter. So it's a great scenario for the A's in that they're going to sell a lot more tickets to the new stadium than they did to the old one. The problem with the old one was, so did you ever go to the Oakland Coliseum?
Yep.
It is
Oakland Alameda.
Yeah, Oakland
Coliseum,
Alameda. Yeah.
Yes.
The Coliseum is not in the most glorious
Nope.
place you'd want to go to.
Nope, it's not.
You get off the BART rail train there, and you look straight, and you go to the stadium the same way on the way back. It is not in the best, and every time the A's tried to move it, something got in the way, whether it's the city of Oakland, whether it was John Fisher, where it was San Francisco. It's just been a bad deal for them all the way around.
The whole city has no pro sports.
Yeah. So, I think they may have like a women's team of some sort, but as far as like the big four, no, they're completely wiped out. Although not just yet, they've got another year left on the lease at the Oakland Coliseum. And there is, I guess, the plans because the Las Vegas ballpark won't be ready until 2028. But you can imagine, like you've seen the Raiders Stadium, like you can imagine what that ballpark will be like. It'll be like the Rangers Park, but souped up, a couple years extra technology. But they do have the ability to play games at the AAA site in Summerlin, Nevada, or they could share with the Giants out in Oracle Park in San Francisco. And they could still, in theory, play at the Coliseum, for a couple more years and wait for the ballpark to be built up. So that's the kind of stuff that will still need to be figured out. But the ballpark won't be ready to 2028, but unanimously voted on and approved by NFL owners. So that is pretty much happening, barring some legal hurdles here. All right, elsewhere, here you go. Here's a story for Paul, and it's another college football one. But I don't think this one will be as debated as the James Madison thing. Florida State will retire Jameis Winston's jersey, honor their 2013 national champions. They will do so in the home finale against North Alabama. As it's 10 years since Jameis hoisted that crystal football, which is still a way better trophy than the lipstick tube that we have for the CFP now, but that's fine. They're going to be honoring him. They're retiring his jersey. And Michael Alford, their athletic director, talked about the huge impact that he had, that he's one of the all-time greats. He's the 11th FSU football player to have his jersey retired, and that will include Fred Biletnikoff, Ron Sellers, Ron Simmons,
Deion Sanders,
pro wrestler,
Charlie Ward, Warwick Dunn,
4 more,
Chris Winkie,
3.
T-Buck, Terrell Buckley.
2.
Who's the kicker who missed the field goals?
He's not in there. Although Seabass should get his.
What about the guy that kicked the one that beat Nebraska, Chris something? What was his kicker?
Scott Bentley.
Scott, yeah.
Who am I? Let's see. I said work done.
2 more. One you're going to hate yourself for, really.
I'm going to hate myself. Did I say Charlie Ward?
Yeah, you already did.
I say Charlie Ward.
William
I feel like
Floyd?
this guy's like your favorite guy.
William Floyd in there?
Derek Brooks.
Yeah.
Derek
There
Brooks
you go.
is in there. Who am I leaving out?
Somewhat newer.
Jordan Travis, before he retires.
If he
win
wins
the title
Natty.
and you'll get it.
Yeah, win the title and you'll get it. Who am I leaving out?
Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones.
Yeah.
I
Which
saw that
means
earlier.
you don't know Florida State
No.
history.
Fake fan.
I saw it earlier, and Marvin Jones stuck out to me, which means I hope that eventually they also give Peter Boulware and Andre Wadsworth the same treatment because they were both very, very good there. Peter Boulware was fantastic. I'm surprised Leroy Butler not on that list, but maybe one day him too.
He's in the Hall of Fame now.
They don't retire numbers; they
Yeah.
retire jerseys. So you can just do this, when you need when you want to. So they're not going to like run out of stuff like the Yankees have. Like there's no single digits left in New York, but they could do that. Jameis very much deserves it. He lost one game as a starting quarterback against Oregon in the Rose Bowl, which was where if you want to see like where Jimbo started to fall apart, the second half of the Rose Bowl against Oregon was where it all just crumbled. So maybe he and Jameis are very close. You know what? I think the key to the Jameis-Jimbo relationship is that Jameis is the only quarterback who, when Jimbo would yell at them coming off the sideline, Jameis would yell back. And he would yell at him for a decision he made, and he would yell back and be like, no, I'm not going to do that. You know? And look, it worked out to 29-1.
He did that standing on top of a cafeteria table, yelled back.
He did.
At a Publix.
No, that was a different thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Crab legs at the Publix.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a cool deal. So number 5 getting retired there at Florida State coming up here, and big 10-year anniversary celebration as well of their championship, a national championship where – yeah, things did kind of start going downhill there with that Oregon game. And Jameis throwing the ball over his head and that whole debacle, I don't have to remind Paul, I don't think so. But this is a relatively new tradition. Relatively new. They started doing it in 97. So these are all retirees since 1997. So there is that coming up Saturday in the home finale against North Alabama.
I was there for the Sellers and Simmons one was together. That was a cool day. That was a cool day.
Do you think they'll have a crab bake or something like that, or claws or crab claws?
They should. They absolutely should.
I think
Publix should be given a discount. Like his number was 5% off all crab legs this week.
I agree.
We're sorry for the kerfuffle, Jameis.
Well, that's going on, and a couple more things here to close it on out. You got college football later on tonight. One game, Boston College at Pittsburgh. And a little ACC action. Boston College is already bowl eligible, and they're looking to improve their bowl standing and what bowl they might be able to get into. While Pittsburgh, not a good year for the Panthers, 2-8 on the year, just 1-5 in the ACC. But I think they're favored by about 1.5 as it stands last I looked at home tonight, despite being 2-8. So Boston College, we were talking about UCF earlier. They do have the former Knight and Thomas Castellanos that we got to see. That's now gone on to Boston College and done some good things, had some highs and lows, but they're 6-4, so it's working out well for them. And so, yeah, Boston College at Pitt later on tonight, 6 o'clock kickoff Central Time, the only time that I'll mention on ESPN. And then meanwhile, later on tonight as well, NFL action on Prime Video at 7:15 Central. Cincinnati, the Bengals at the Ravens in a rivalry matchup. The Bengals 5-4 on the year. The Ravens 7-3 on the season. So a big battle in the AFC North as Week 10 gets kicked off here. And any thoughts on Bengals-Ravens later on tonight?
I sat there on Sunday. I did not watch, and I'm not bragging about that. I had a lot to do with high school football and did not watch a second of anything NFL until Washington late in the game. Who they play? Sam Howell was bringing them back. I turned it onto the ticket, whatever. What do you call it, Paul? The red zone. And immediately saw whoever they were playing march 80 yards down the field, kick a field goal at the end, and that was it. I turned the TV off.
Was it the Bucks? No.
No.
I'll say this.
Good. The players.
Congratulations.
That's how much I watched it.
Congratulations to Al and Kirk tonight, who get to do a game that matters.
No, it's true.
That's many other games don't.
No kidding,
this
man.
is a huge game.
Those broadcasts, too, they are a hassle on Thursday nights. Those games are non-competitive, and it's just, man, I don't know.
Yeah, this should be a great one. Two of the best quarterbacks in the league going against each other. Joe Burrow, Garrett's baby brother.
They're getting that engine going.
Yeah, they're getting
Cincinnati's starting to. They do this every year.
T. Higgins not going to play tonight, so that'll be interesting. But Chase is going. So I think this is one that I'll actually watch most of, as opposed to
good for everybody else.
When it's the bad ones, I just kind of tune out.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, the Commanders lost the Seahawks last week.
Geno Smith led
that's
right
who
down the
we're
field,
trying to think of. But the Seahawks got that win. That was big for them. So there's a few things off the radar.
Both of my favorite teams lost with no time left on a game-winning field goal. It's that kind of a year it has been now for too long. All right, when we come back, our college football picks around the corner. Mickey on the Cowboys is they just absolutely destroyed the Giants as everyone thought they would. Who's next? Another team with Carolina that should be a 40-point spot. We'll have our picks, our college football picks, 5 games next on 365 Sports. City of Woodway, letters to Santa. This is a promotion they do every year. With Thanksgiving next Thursday, that also means that Christmas is 5 weeks away. December the 1st at 8 o'clock through December the 20th at 5 p.m., you can write a letter, a postcard to Santa Claus, and they will return it and send it back to whoever you want, if it's your child or someone that you're trying to make happy. Getting a letter, Santa's elves dropping off a magical mailbox all the way from the North Pole. It's a great deal for the children that also continue to be a part of what is the pure greatness of Christmas. Whitehall at the Carling Bright Arboretum. It's on Bosque Boulevard. You can drop these postcards off. Return post stamp, by the way, and also your address from 8 until 5 every day, Monday through Friday, at the Carling Bright Arboretum, again at Whitehall. And have a return letter from Santa to your child. It's on more information, more details on the information on discoverwoodway.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
You don't want to miss our best price deals during the Black Friday sales event at Allen Samuels. This month, you can save big on the truck you've been looking for, like the new 2023 Rams. Designed to be durable, functional, and stylish, Ram trucks give you that first-class feel. With premium options like luxurious leather-trimmed seating, surround view cameras, plus exceptional legroom and storage, hurry in and shop our great selection in-store or online today. Shop an award-winning dealership with award-winning products, Allen Samuels in Waco.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Aaron, it's premium grade East Texas beef, and you're located just outside of Tyler. No hormones, no antibiotics, no steroids, the kind of beef that people want. And then also your label is what catches people's attention as well.
Yes, we have a all-natural, pasture-raised Wagyu beef. It's a USDA label. That means our cattle never spend any time in the feed yard. They go straight from the pasture to the day of harvest, and we oversee the whole process from the beginning of the genetic choices when we make these matings to the time the calves are born, to the feed choices, all the way through when the animals are harvested. So we oversee the whole thing as a family, and we just believe, life's too short to eat average beef. So we offer people a chance to step up their game and try Wagyu beef at TexasBeefHouse.com.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments and financial advisor Chuck Verno, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
A lot of good talk on the chat room today about many things, including do you inject any kind of seasoning in your turkey, to the coaching carousel with so many names a part of so many different jobs. So this is when, a different hour or different time sometimes on Thursdays based on our guest lineup. But here is our college football pick. We had controversy this week. We had controversy 2 hours ago. Here is the picks. Here are the picks. The bottom is our record. Paul was the only one that did what?
I was the only one who went 4-1 last week. Or everyone else went 5-0. Yeah.
That doesn't mean anyone went 3-2.
No, everyone went 5-0. I went 4-1 because I picked Tennessee. And to be honest with you, I felt fine about the pick, thinking that they were two evenly matched teams. But no, Tennessee was absolutely hot garbage.
Yes, they
you know
were.
what? No, they weren't. Saying they were hot garbage is an insult to hot garbage.
No,
that was ridiculous last week.
I chose to look at it
It's a
more
bad
like
pick.
props to Missouri.
But
but
Missouri's good.
But I actually debate. I was like, this seems like a ripe spot for Tennessee to just jump in there and create some chaos and upset the apple cart. And no, Missouri took it to them. That was a very impressive win for the Tigers.
So everybody, Garrett jumped closer to 500. This is kind of bunched up. We also had a controversy because Paul, because I paid him, had me at 39-16. And then Craig kind of wait a minute. I went 5-0 too. So here we are. I'm a game up on Craig. Then Emery is there, and then you see both Paul and Garrett. But a great 5-0 week, Garrett. Congratulations on you joining us at going 5-0. Here are the games across the board. There is not one game that is chalk. Arizona against Utah. I'm going with the red-hot team, although Utah, of course, a lot of respect for them. I'll start with me on this one. Arizona, I just like the way they're playing. Utah, obviously very good. This could be a 20-18 game or something like that. I'll take Arizona. Craig?
Arizona's playing really good ball. I totally get why they're the hot pick, and I debated a lot on this, but you know what? I just feel like Utah's been there, done that. I understand they've had to kind of struggle along at various points this year with just various issues, but they still find themselves right here, right? They're still technically in the mix for the Pac-12, and they're just a super solid team that I feel like is going to go give a little bit of a dose of reality to Arizona right now. And I think, I like Utah better. I feel like I know a bit more about Utah. I think Arizona's a great story. I think them being slight favorites, if that's the case, it makes sense. Being at home, Fafita, etc. But I'm putting my trust in the Utes here that they're going to go in there and get a big win.
Yeah, I just go with home team here. I think that was what I thought. Utah, this game's gonna be really good, but Arizona is on its ascendancy right now, and Noah Fafita's really good. I'm gonna roll with the Wildcats here.
All right, Garrett, you agree? Craig's got Utah, which is not a bad. None of these are bad picks, although some people on the chat room were thinking that. Not this game, but other games. Garrett?
No, I just think this, you have all the smoke around Jedd Fish, and will he stay, will he go? He's getting they tried to do the contract thing. Arizona's at home. I think this is a big win for the Wildcats.
All right, so Arizona, which was overlooked, lost those games early. Of course, they were Washington and USC had that early loss to Mississippi State. That looks bad, but they have been on a run ever since with wins against 19th-ranked Washington State, 11th-ranked Oregon State, 19th-ranked UCLA, and also then winning at Colorado, although that thing came down to the wire.
They've been on a good run. I just feel like the bubble's got to burst at some point. If anybody's going to burst the bubble, it's the Utah Utes, and so that's what I'm banking on. But, this should be a good one and not a game that anybody thought would be worth a S when the season started. But here we are at the end, and look at Arizona making this interesting.
It's
so
a
good
Big
for them.
12 preview. It's a Big 12 preview.
It is a Big 12
All
preview.
right, and now this one, I was scolded by Jim, Washington Huskies fan. I know, Jim, I give you the sad face. I'm the only one, and I did not know what everyone was doing when Paul was giving my picks.
I'm shocked.
I'll take the Beavers at home. I just think that maybe they kind of like them. I think they're going to kind of have just too much toughness for Washington. Maybe not slow the game down, but win that battle in the trenches.
Yeah, to Softy's point earlier about Washington being ranked behind Florida State, I kind of agree with them. Again, but not worried about it because, again, it'll all work itself out if you just win games. But I think the committee is punishing Washington for playing fast and loose more than the other teams. For whatever reason, Washington's, close wins against certain teams are more punishable than the others. But again, they're fifth. It's going to work itself out. But
the control of a game, you mean?
That kind of thing, those deals. But they've won all the time. And they've had their duds where they walk out there and they don't look exactly like Washington that you see all the time. But so is everybody else. But I'm going to go with the Huskies here. I think there's so much on the line for them. I think that I can see the finish line. I think they're going to weave through.
Yeah, I'm shocked that it's not more Oregon State laced here. I thought I'd actually be on a limb kind of picking Washington because it just seems like the trendy thing this week is to pick Oregon State, being at home and that's the way Vegas has gone. And so there's been a lot of talk about the upset that Washington could be walking into. But, yeah, I'm rolling the dice with the Huskies and that wide receiving core and Michael Penix. I have more trust in that than Oregon State slowing that down and, then themselves going and scoring points. And the fact that Dillon Johnson, as Softy mentioned earlier, you got the run game going. Now, granted, we know who that was against, so there is that. But still, it's a good sign. So, yeah, if you get the running game going, too, with what they already have in the passing game, that's pretty nasty. 10-0 on the line. I just feel like there's no chance of just sleepwalking into this one, especially with all the other noise outside this week. This should be a winner gets the Pac-12 network or something like that. But, I'm rolling with the Huskies. I think they're going to stay unbeaten and make it very interesting here at the end.
Mr. Ross.
No, I agree with Craig. I think the reason I went with this was really the receiving core of Washington. I don't know if Oregon State can match them, but honestly, after listening to Angie earlier, if the weather's a factor, that's one thing that's got me a little concerned with that.
For sure, because, you feel fine about running the football if you're Oregon State. You feel great about that. Shout out to Damian Martinez, the Texas guy. But, with Washington, despite Dillon Johnson recently kicking it up against USC, you don't feel necessarily all that strongly about them being able to do the same thing. And he had 100 yards against Utah as well, but he had that big game against the Trojans. And so we'll see. If he can keep it going, though, that's huge news. If they're able to run the football in nasty weather and they're doing that, then you add in what they're doing in the passing game, holy cow, they're on to something pretty hot here at the end.
I am the only one that took who the Vegas thinks is going to win this game.
No, Vegas still thinks Washington's the favorite, but I think he was kind of flipping around this week. And there was a lot of the just talk was about the upset potential here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, who's our buddy on? Who's the guy, the Oregon State fan that used to come on so
Clint
much?
Moses.
Yeah, where is he at? He used to get banned because he used to put up the beaver, right?
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm the only one. I'm the lone horse there. Craig is in the game, that Arizona game with Utah. Now, ACC, Clemson and North Carolina. We all pick Clemson across the board. They're starting to play better. And Emory takes Mac Brown and company.
North Carolina, offensively, is a far better team. Far better team. Defensively, Clemson is a far better team. And Clemson is at home, and it's super hard to win in the fake Death Valley, as Garrett calls it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Death Valley.
Yeah. No, he doesn't like their stupid rock. He doesn't like their name.
It's all terrible.
He hates it. But
how many titles, by the way, does LSU? I'm curious. Clemson has 3 national titles, right?
LSU's got
LSU
3.
5, 3 or 4, 5. Okay. All right.
Yeah. But I think Clemson's defense will make the stops when they need to. I think Dabo's kind of awoken.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. They're playing better. They've kind of gotten in a nice little run.
Yeah, Cade Klubnik seems like he's starting to get it together. Just the team as a whole seems like they're getting it together there at Clemson. So, yeah, I think they're kind of turning the corner a little bit and being at home as well. North Carolina is really good. Like you said, Paul, offensively, obviously they're clearly better, but I still just don't trust them entirely. There's the thing about just the couple losses here lately and just Mac Brown and just down the stretch, I'm going with the hot hand, and I think the hot hand right now is Clemson.
All right, so there we go with that. Now we go to the one that I wanted to pick Iowa State, but I was scared to death of Sandra Green. So I was always going to pick Texas. Texas, Iowa State, Paul, Craig, and I. We take the Horns. I just feel like they're better, and I think they have more weapons, and maybe this thing gets kind of slogged up a little bit or whatever. But, Craig, your thoughts on the Horns?
Yeah, this was the easiest game to pick for me. I have full confidence in Texas rolling into Ames and being able to take care of business. Now, I'm not saying that the Cyclones can't or won't put up a fight. I think they absolutely will. I just think Texas is a better team. Yeah. I just think they're a better team in pretty much every single way. Talent-wise and just explosiveness and things like that. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park, but I think, with the comments made earlier this week, like I said a while ago, if any sort of lack of focus was there, I feel like Iowa State almost like, hey, no, pay attention and let us motivate you. And so Texas is going to have a little extra chip on their shoulder they might not otherwise have had. But Matt Campbell's a great coach. We'll see what they can put together. But I I just don't trust them to get stops, and then Rocco Becht offensively to be able to like do anything super effectively against that Longhorns defense, So that's where I just think Texas is the better team.
Yeah, I think Iowa State will make it dicey at times. I mean, they will. They're gonna muddy the water, but yeah, I think the Horns.
They gotta keep this. They can't if they lose. If they're up by 6, 8, 10, 12 points, they can't let this thing get in the fourth quarter and get kind of muddy. Garrett, you've taken the Cyclones. Good for you for jumping out there along with Emory.
Look, man, I gotta make up some ground here, and this is also probably a reason why I'm 25-30. But at the same time,
somebody in the chat room reminded you of that.
Yeah,
by the way.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and well deserved. Hey, but no, I just this is one of those things where Texas is clearly the better team. I just don't know what they're going to look like with Jonathan Brooks, and with that line, I really don't think it's going to make that much of a difference ultimately. But I'm just going to ride the magic and Ames at night for this one final hurrah.
Paxton asked me to put that saying that UT fans put, blink 'em. I can't say it. I can't say it. It won't come out of my body, my soul, my heart, my lips. I cannot I can't do it.
Do you want me to vomit all over this desk if I say it? I can't do it.
I can't either. I know Craig can't do it either. All right.
Yeah. I can't do it.
And SMU, what a nice story with Rhett Lashley and company, and Memphis on the road, the Tigers. And we all go with SMU. Emory takes Memphis. He's going against the grain a lot this week, trying to make a little round up, but he's okay. Garrett, we'll start with you on the Ponies.
I just think they're a better team. I like what Rhett Lashley has going on. I think they have a lot of confidence and boost from that ACC, the future they have going on there. I think they're explosive on offense. Their defense is fun. I just like them.
Yeah, I think SMU's got a dynamic offense, and Memphis' defense has not been very good. But this is one of those that, like, Memphis is maybe the smart. I don't know. I've seen like a lot of debate, and Memphis and SMU have had some games now, so this could get a little wonky. I don't think SMU is just necessarily a slam dunk, but I do like more of what I know about them versus Memphis, especially when you're looking at a pretty bad defense. And you're looking at a pretty dynamic offense there with SMU. I feel like the Ponies are in stride right now. Preston Stone's having a good year. They were able to hit the transfer portal and really make some improvements there. And I just think that they're more explosive, more dynamic, and I think that's going to matter a lot in this game.
Let's not forget now, they have the top 10 ranked defense, too. And that's what's been one of the differences for Coach Lashley and the Ponies and SMU.
They're coming. Like SMU, they're coming.
Yes, trademark with Dion.
But no, they're on their way. They're not messing around anymore.
When we come back, Mickey Spagnola, Paul's Top 5. This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills and also Richland Drive in Waco. 48-foot walk-in humidor, cigars galore. Rocky Patel, Ashton, Romeo and Julieta. If you want our tour, Fuente, Padron, Cohiba, on and on. One of my favorites, one of the ones that's kind of an unsung, is La Fontana, Churchill, and Torpedo. It's got kind of a little bit of a sweet taste to it. Plus, they have CBD product. Vita Dreams, if you struggle at night falling asleep, you can take a gummy, or you learn how much of a gummy you need to take, and it'll help you fall asleep a lot more peacefully, rest, and not have the tossing and turning that a lot of times you have because so much is on your mind. Plus THC products for bad days. It's called for bad days. It's for chronic, very painful type body, muscles, ligaments, back, whatever it might be. It's Don Humidor and Coffee Bean. Tell Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne Smokey sent you in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, is your holiday item superstore. Half spiral hams, 8 to 10 pounds for $4.45 a pound. Pit hams, 12 pounds for $4.45 a pound. Bone-in hams, 18 to 22 pounds for $3.40 per pound. Whole raw turkeys from 12 to 16 pounds for $2.50 a pound. Whole smoked turkeys, that's smoked turkeys at 9 to 12 pounds for $3.75 a pound. And mini pit hams, 6 to 8 pounds for $5.99 a pound. And don't forget, they have full service butcher shop where you can find what you want: pork, poultry, seafood, and beef. And I bring up the beef because big beef tenderloin or a prime rib. Brian Bauer and the Bauer family, full service bakery with fresh baked kolaches every morning and bread and cold beer and wine. Tailgate needs from pellet fuel to charcoal. Waco Custom Marketplace and the holiday items, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Cowboys coming off, they just absolutely own the Giants. But honestly, really, occasionally, yeah, we've seen what Philadelphia's done, played for the Super Bowl, won it a few years back. But they own the AFC East, and they are in a stretch. Mickey Spagnola joins us. They just played Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia, but they are, whoever, Danny DeVito was in New York, Bryce Young, a rookie with Carolina Panthers. The Commanders, Hal puts up big numbers, but he's an interception waiting to happen. They're in a stretch where they don't play much. And how dangerous then does that make it? Because you never know in the NFL.
Well, you don't know in the NFL, but again, I think what the Cowboys have to do is concentrate on themselves. Don't worry about who they're playing, what the record is, where they're playing. As I've been saying, they need to go on a 4-game winning streak. They've got 1. Now they got to worry about getting 2, because you can't get to 4 if you don't get to 2, right? So, I think they have their heads screwed on straight. They're saying the right things about preparing themselves, understanding that this is the NFL. It's like Cavante Turpin told me today. He said, you never know when one of those teams is going to play the best game of the season. So you got to be prepared.
Like Arizona
and I think that's
did?
what yeah, exactly. Although let's remember Arizona, the Cowboys started only 2/5 of their offensive line, and 2 of the guys taking those 3 spots were making their first NFL start. So there was a circumstance going on. I'm not giving them a soft pill to lay their head on. And I guess we just found out how good Joshua Dobbs can be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Been a fun story.
So I mean, that question has come up, and those guys have had to answer it. And, you know, I think sometimes we end up making that an excuse. Well, they didn't care about this game. Well, it's not don't care about it when you play it. It's the preparation, right? That's when you gotta care to get prepared for the game, because once you get on the field, you're going to play hard, right? You don't go out there lackadaisical if you've ever played anything in sports, right? But what you have to do is make sure you've prepared to play that game.
Mickey, they're trying to find ways to get the running game going back to what it was. Tony Pollard had these big plays, and since they've made him the lead back, it just hasn't been the same. With Rico Dowdle getting maybe more look, can they maybe go back to that where Tony Pollard is still the starter, but he can also be that, but the change of pace maybe comes in a different way with Dowdle coming in the game?
Yeah, I got no problem with that. So isn't this kind of ironic? What were they saying last year? Well, we got to have more Tony Pollard because Zeke just not doing it, right? Now it's, well, I don't know if Tony Pollard's doing it. Now we need more Rico Dowdle. Well, maybe they should have kept Zeke here. Look, however you got to do it, do it. I think the change of pace, not the change of pace, but maybe the change of tempo on how guys run can confuse a defense. Maybe not asking Tony Pollard to have to keep pounding in between the tackles, right? To get him in space, get him on pitch outs, different ways you can use him to use his speed, because it's hard to use your speed when you're running off guard and there's no hole there. You got to be a different type of running back. And I think we've seen Rico make some runs, although some of the runs he's made, they're blocked pretty well, though, too. You got to consider that. So however you got to do it. I mean, you know, they ran for 168 yards. It didn't seem like it in that game because they were throwing the ball so well. But if you got to throw the ball to open up the running game, why not? Who cares? If I score 40 points or 49 points and I'm struggling running the ball, that tells me that, well, maybe we can go score 60, right? So sometimes, and I think C.D. Lamb today made a good point. They asked about the running game. Do you want to see Pollard get going? And he goes, maybe these teams will start backing off, meaning not play like the Giants did and try to play this in man coverage, and that'll open things up front. So we'll see how it goes. But again, as long as you are gaining 640 yards, I don't care about the running game.
I got a theory on Dowdle and the theory on Pollard before, of course, Dowdle and when it was Zeke. The Cowboys fans, obviously very passionate. The best fans, I guess it depends, best or maybe the most frustrated. But, you know, they like stars. And I've always thought that maybe what they need sometimes are the Army ants. And so what's wrong with having two? You know what I mean? You can't have,
that's a good
like,
point.
you hear, well, hey, we need Stephon Diggs because of all the chatter. Well, I mean, you can't have an all-pro team. You got to have some Army ants, some guys that are
the worker bees.
Yes. And I think, and then all of a sudden, down, of course, Pollard coming off the knee injury, but that's my thought about that. Dak is playing incredibly well. I know it's like the number one discussion because everyone's going to pay attention because it's the Cowboys logo. If he played for like Arizona, nobody would care. But it seems like he's got something going. Is this him getting more comfortable with the offense with McCarthy?
I think more comfortable with the offense and more comfortable back playing football. And I think you guys might have heard me say this before. I talked to him after what game were it was a road game. It was the previous road game when he played well. Maybe it was the Rams game. And we were walking towards the bus and I said something to him. I said, "You look like you're back having fun playing football." And he kind of looked at me and smiled. I said, "You were trying to be perfect before. Stay in the pocket, make sure I don't throw any interceptions." And I said, now it's like you're playing Dak Prescott football. And he goes, "Well, yeah, but I'm getting comfortable." But he knew what I was saying, and he didn't want to say it, but I think he agreed that he was trying to be too perfect before. And now he's cut it loose. Okay, if you throw an interception, you throw an interception. But 5 times other times, you're going to throw the ball downfield the way you need to throw a guy open. I just think he's playing Dak Prescott football. And if that means being comfortable with the offense or just comfortable playing again, using his feet when he needs to use his feet. We've seen how well he throws the ball on the run, by the way. And then if he doesn't, it's not there, pull it down and go. And so, I thought he was trying to play different. And I don't know that they were asking him to do that. But I think he was doing it on his own. But, yeah, this is one of his best stretch, although I do remind folks that when he came back from the injury last year and they played 10 straight games before they had the clunker at the end against Washington, they were averaging 35 points a game. 35. So, it wasn't all him. I figured out his quarterback rating during that stretch was like 94. Well, right now, he took a quarterback rating that was in the 80s. I think after the San Francisco game to 105 now, and it's the third best in the league. And, 5 weeks ago, people were talking about, well, are they going to renew his contract? Maybe you just need to let him go. And now they want to say, well, yeah, he might be the MVP of the league. So you can see how things change in this league.
Mickey, one thing I'll tell you about I've noticed about Dan Quinn over his entire career, if you go back and look, if he tells the front office to draft a defensive back, they should probably do it based on just the returns that they get. Like Deron Bland, unless you were a super fan or a draftnik, you'd not really heard of Deron Bland. And Dan Quinn goes, that guy. And now they're going to have one of the best quarterback duos. Whatever happens with Stephon Gilmore next year, the Cowboys can make their mind up with that. But, with Bland and Diggs next year, those are two dudes who go get the ball.
Oh, yeah. And it's an innate ability, right? You really can't teach that. You got to have a sense of how you're doing it. And when you hear that Bland has become the first cornerback in back-to-back years with 5 interceptions since Everson Walls in 81 and 82, it's like that speaks volume. And by the way, when Everson did it in 82, David would remember, huh? Yeah. That was a strike season. They only played 9 games, and he had 7 interceptions in 9 games after his 11 in his rookie year. So, yeah, Bland is, think about this. If Diggs doesn't get hurt, Jordan Lewis is the fourth corner, right? Because Bland's in the slot. And then you got Gilmore. Now, next year, Gilmore's only on a 1-year deal, and he'll be 34 next year. And you just paid Diggs. Now, you're hoping that he comes back as the same player, and if you wanted, you got Diggs on one side, Bland on the other, and figure out the slot to see what's going to happen. And if Gilmore wants to play for a reasonable amount, it's a pretty good 4-man cornerback crew, too. So, yeah, I think and the thing about Dan Quinn is he figures out how to use guys. It's not like, here's how I do this and you got to fit into it. It's no, let me see what this guy can do and I'll make him, fit into however he can play best. And I think that's one of his best qualities.
Mickey, last question for you, if you don't mind, but it's now November, mid-November, Thanksgiving around the corner. The schedule gets a little quirky. They're going to host a game a week from today, but can you try to explain the difference, not just preseason to regular season, but regular season to playoffs, but the stretch drive? There's a lot of games because there's the extra game. But is there something in the air when you get to mid-November and the players just know it, the veterans just understand it?
Oh, I think so. I think that, they understand that now it's time to start streaking. Bill Parcells used to tell us all the time when he was here, and I think it was kind of his philosophy when people would ask him late September, middle of October, how good's your team? And he goes, ask me after Thanksgiving. He says, then we'll have seen enough and we'll know what the rest of the season looks like, right? And I think they understand it, and it's hard to get through this stretch. You're going to play a road game on Sunday. And, for their benefit, it's a good thing at least it's a noon game, because I could remember several years they were playing like the Giants on Sunday night and then had to come back and play on Thanksgiving. How fair was that? It's almost like they were penalizing the Cowboys for playing host to a Thanksgiving Day game. Well, now that everybody plays on Thursday, I guess it's kind of evened out, and they understand that who's ever playing on Sunday, if it's a road game, don't make them go to the coast and then have to fly home and get home at 4 a.m. But yeah, it's a tough stretch. And then they play Thursday again. So you don't get a break until back-to-back Thursday games. But there is, David, there is a sense of importance, like, okay, you got to step on the pedal. And as I pointed out, they need to win 4 straight. If they want to stay in the hunt to compete for the division title. Because if you look at the Eagles' schedule, right, they're going to play some pretty tough teams starting Monday night in Kansas City.
Yep, and then Dallas might be getting a break, and anyone else that plays Buffalo because they look like a mess right now. But who knows with that by the time they
what
play?
What do you think's happened
month.
there? That's amazing what's happened to that team.
We got to go, but it seems like they're playing so uptight. Like they're playing as if every single pass, every single play is the end of the world, and it just doesn't seem like a team that's playing free and easy. The
That's
pressure,
probably a pretty good point. Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you, Mickey.
Okay, good talking to you guys.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com with us every Thursday on 365 Sports. Paul in the top 5 right now.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 coaches hot seat as we go into Week 12. The seal's been broken. Jimbo Fisher and Andy Avalos and Zach Arnett and, coordinators now too. Alex Grinch, that broke the coordinator seal, but Mike Yurcich. So it is going around. So here are the coaches to watch for, I would say, after this weekend's games. Number 5, Sam Pittman at Arkansas. And we were talking about SMU and Rhett Lashley earlier. I think he's a guy that Arkansas would try to make a play for, although I'm not entirely sure that with the amount of money that SMU can throw around and them on their way to the SEC that he would completely entertain it, but he is from Arkansas. But I think Sam Pittman, there's been a lot of questions about his job. I know that Arkansas fans are further removed from their Texas rivalry, but Texas and Oklahoma coming in, there's splashes going on in the SEC, and Arkansas just seems unable to make one. So I would watch for Sam Pittman after this week.
Yeah, they're just kind of treading water right now. It's not going as well as you thought with KJ Jefferson back and just all that. They know you lost Kendall Briles. I think that's had an impact offensively at least, and that's hurt you as well. But yeah, it just seems like that's not really going anywhere positively at the moment or on an uptick of any sort. And what are they even, like the 13th team in the SEC right now? I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head without knowing exactly for sure, but they're at the bottom, and yeah, there's 2 more teams joining next year, and they're not going to be above those 2.
Yeah.
They're better than Vanderbilt, and that's it. So they're at 13 out of
South Carolina's ahead of them too.
South Carolina's won 2 games at least.
Okay. Yeah.
Or no, excuse me. South Carolina's won 2 SEC games versus Arkansas's won 1. And also South Carolina's 4-6 to Arkansas's 3-7. So yeah, they're only above Vanderbilt, whether by conference or overall record. So yeah, that's not good. And you're looking at number 15 out of 16 next year when the Oklahoma and Texas arrivals occur. So I know he's got a massive buyout. There's been talk about that. And so that's something that I'm sure the donors are trying to get their ducks in a row with and figure out what they can do. I don't know that situation well enough just yet to know how easy that will be, but there is that. But as we've seen before, those don't always be, those aren't always the most impenetrable walls or hurdles to get over, especially when you want a guy gone, you'll find a way. So yeah, that's definitely one to watch right now.
For some reason, all you listing that and saying like South Carolina's right ahead of them reminded me of way back in the day in '92 when Bill Clinton was running for president the first time. And obviously from Arkansas, this SNL joke about Arkansas was how they were ranked in like the bottom 5 of every like education, all these things. And so the questions of the debate were, why should we elect you president when Arkansas is near the bottom of the 50 states? And Phil Hartman in his great said, listen, I'm proud to tell you that we have shot ahead of Mississippi and we are now 49th in prevention of rickets. And it was just, that's kind of how that sounded. Yeah. Like, hey, we're coming for you, South Carolina.
No, it's very, very true. Yeah. But 16 million. Yeah. So you're right. That's exactly how it sounds. It's the best you can make it sound is they're above Vanderbilt's in the standings, and that's it. And they've lost a lot of juice. And yeah, I don't know what KJ Jefferson's future holds, but 16 million I think is what they'd have to come up with. So if you're looking at the writing on the wall, I think that's something that is going to become much more of a hot topic.
Number 4. Tom Allen at Indiana. This kind of appears inevitable that's going to go down. Tom Allen will be a defensive coordinator somewhere, probably in the Big Ten next year, but he's not going to be the head coach at Indiana, I don't think. And this will be interesting in other parts of the world. If Jim Leonhard wants to go to USC and not be a head coach, then he's going to go take that job. But I do think Jim Leonhard is a candidate for this job at Indiana, and I think that'd be interesting. So, but Tom Allen probably going to get bounced here in the coming days.
Well, he was hot to trot. Indiana had a little run, but that was a
years
long
ago
time
now at this
ago.
point. Yeah, that was about 3-4 years ago. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a downslide since then. That makes sense too. I do think that just in general, they're going to need somebody that is able to kind of navigate all the various moving parts here. I'm not sure if he was the most well-equipped to do that. But again, another situation where you're looking at the right and the left. There's 4 teams coming in. Mm-hmm. And this isn't even a division thing anymore. You're going to be at the very bottom of the Big Ten. So, yeah, this is an important time for Indiana if they want to be competitive to probably cut their losses and, move on to someone else.
Yeah. Number 3, Dana Holgorsen. This one is interesting. I don't completely see it happening, but – they just lost to Cincinnati. Like, they're just so erratic.
Yeah.
They're so erratic. And
that was really bad for Dana to beat Baylor and to do it the fashion that you did. And we knew Baylor wasn't good, but for Houston, that didn't matter. They went on the road. They beat Baylor. It's a Big 12 original. And then to turn right around and get beat by Cincinnati, who had not won a Big 12 game, that was awful.
Yeah.
That was awful.
So they're just really erratic. They've got Oklahoma State this week. Oklahoma State's probably going to be in a very foul mood.
Yes.
And so that's not great news for Houston. We'll see. And then they've got the space race next week. But if they don't make something out of these next 2 weeks, like I certainly expect, like, got to at least talk about it, because the last 2 years in particular, not just the first year of the Big 12, but the last year in the AAC was really erratic.
It's been erratic, and man, almost had that chance if they could have beaten Texas. Anyone beats Texas, they save their job, right? But that didn't happen. Beat Baylor, and then poof.
Yeah, I don't know. You can't get a good grip on anything, like Paul was saying. You can't. There's not a great feel for where this is supposed to be going, because you have moments like the last couple of weeks of nearly beating a Texas, then getting trounced the following week, and then you beat Baylor, and then you get beat by Cincinnati right after that. So
isn't that the Big 12 in some cases too?
I mean, it is, but it's just not. At least be a good brand of football, though. I mean, when it's just Donovan Smith rolling out there and throwing 2 picks a week, and if there was a sign that it was heading in the right direction, that's great. But it's not really, I think, a sign of that. And so it's life in the Big 12 now, which is to be expected. But they went from having 3 cracks at a bowl game to probably not going to a bowl game.
Yeah,
So that's not great.
Yeah. Number 2. Dino Babers, really, I don't see. Look, Syracuse in certain programs, like, they don't maybe have to do it the week, but it's getting ahead of that transfer portal, which is gonna, like, they're gonna want to have that done like the week after Thanksgiving. That's in Syracuse, if they want to be any kind of successful, they're going to have to find, some kind of alley in the transfer portal, because they cannot sustain success. They start out good at the beginning of the season when they play their tomato cans, and then after that they get into the conference, which is not that tough of a conference, and then everybody just beats them in succession.
They've had 2 winning seasons. They still can have a winning season this year. He had the 10-3 in 2018, but there's been a lot of 5-7s, 4-8s when he first started. 5-5 this year, 1-10. Yeah, he needs something to happen.
Yeah, and I don't know if we have any other comment on Dino Babers other than, like, it's just the ACC is not that tough of a league. It's a very top-heavy league, but to not even put consistent, like, couple of bowl seasons back together and look like you're on the up, like that gets you fired in that league.
They could make the bowl game, though.
Yeah, they could.
That's the thing, is, like, they just have to beat.
I think if he goes 7-5, he's in, right?
7-5.
If he goes 7-5, does he save his job? I would think you can't.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, maybe, and that's possible. But I'm just saying, like, they're going to make a bowl game, or could possibly make a bowl game. They got 2 cracks at just winning one more game, and it's not like it's Florida State and Miami or something. It's Georgia Tech, who's very up and down themselves.
Yeah.
And but and then
Wake
it's
Forest.
Wake Forest. So I mean, they could in theory get to a bowl game, but I don't know. Like, he's been around a long time. Is that good enough at this point? It'd probably be hard to fire a guy who's 7-5, especially again they started strong.
Well, that would be back-to-back winning seasons too if they could get to that.
So he's somebody who's, I think we revisit that in a couple of weeks and see what he's done those last 2 games. But I mean, he's been around for a while now, and then at the same time, it's Syracuse football. Like, what are your expectations overall? Like, are you expecting to be a playoff team? Or is it just making a bowl pretty regularly enough for you? I don't know. I don't know enough about the situation up there.
And number 1, Chip Kelly.
You didn't put Aranda on here.
I don't, because I just don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I just don't know. Like, it's
we'll know after this week.
I'm not saying he'd be 1, but
after this week, like he might be on the list next week. But I don't know, and maybe it happens. But Chip Kelly is gonna get fired after the USC game. Like, there's too much around that now.
But what if he beats them?
I know. What if he
beats USC?
He could. USC's not that good.
Yeah.
I mean, but
it's like beating your rival and getting fired anyway.
Now, he might beat them. I don't think they're going to be prisoners of the moment. Apparently, the word on Chip Kelly is it's not just the record, it's that he is not well liked among the people who are giving money to pay for Chip Kelly. So that is always going to be a problem. They're not going he's not going to beat USC and be like, I know you. We don't like you and your general personality, but you did beat USC. So all right, but apparently he is bristled with the power brokers, and that is never good. It's kind of a bit of a Bo Pelini situation in that it might even if you looked at Bo Pelini and go, well, he's been good enough, but he had bristled with some of the power brokers, and
Nebraska fired a pretty good coach in Solich, but they were slipping. And look what happened to them after that. Then they fired Pelini because he was too mean.
Yeah.
And look what happened for a decade after that.
Yeah, but UCLA also has not had near the success Nebraska has. But I'm just comparing you can say, all right, it's fine for now, and maybe we'll give Chip, who's got some good pelts on the wall, a chance to do something. But when you're bristly and you make the money mad, then it's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that report out there put that like it was a done deal, and I suppose that it leans that way. But it's funny to think of what if he goes and just beats the heck out of USC, and then you turn around and fire the guy. I mean, they got Cal at the end of the year, so. Yeah, I don't know. That you got the young quarterback and Moore that didn't work out as well, at least for when you needed to turn to him this year. And so I can see where, it's been a little bit up and down, and you're maybe, especially if there's stuff going on behind the scenes, you're a little bit annoyed by it. But that's going to be an interesting one to watch with that USC result for sure. Either way,
some neat names, and unfortunately for some of them, probably 3 or 4 of them are gone. And then who else not a part of the list? By the way, Garrett, there's a college football playoff note that came down this afternoon. Dennis Dodd, they met last week, quietly adopted a rule saying a league must be at least 8 members for its championship to qualify for the top 6 or 5 automatic bids going forward. That directly impacts, of course, Washington State, Oregon State, who was kind of in limbo right now as they try to figure out what they're going to do the next couple of years. Maybe go independent for a couple of years.
There was reporting indicating that this was done, and it wasn't. And so now it's done based on this, which is interesting in that it was quietly adopted, as it says right there, and made official because the thought was that it wasn't. And, that's certainly impactful news if you're Oregon State and Washington State. So that's just another little potential issue on their plate that's stacking up pretty high at this moment, and not the type of news that you want with the idea that you'll probably be the Pac-2 and then some arrangement of some sort. So that's a very interesting note. We're going to have to unpack that a bit more and also see kind of what the reaction to that is and some of the clarification of that is. But, that is a big note for the Beavers and the Cougars right there.
Last thing, Alan Samuels had that X7 that was on sale. They've lowered the price to $54,985. Beautiful car. They can bring it to you to help test drive it if you want on the Loop in 84 in Waco. Garrett Ross, thank you. Jack McKenzie, thank you. Emery Winter, Levi Caraway. 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. We'll be back at it again tomorrow on a Friday, 3 until 6. Thank you, everybody that's a part of the show and our great sponsors. For Paul and Craig, I'm David Smoak. Good night on 365 Sports.